Chapter 10:14. Yi Qing Luo didn't panic at all. Her lips curled into a playful and devilish smile. Is that so? I'm not you. That heartless man is not Diemo Xian then. Who am I? Who is he? Yi Qing Luo slowly stood up from the ground and slowly walked in front of Yi Qing Luo. Her smile was charming, like the world's most bewitching poppy flower. Yi Qing Luo just stared at her. There was no evasion, no fear or panic. I'm not interested to know who you are. I'm also not interested to know who the person who impersonated Xian is. Yi Qing Luo smiled lightly. Her smile was the same as the woman in front of her. Enchanting, unparalleled. She raised her hand and locked Yi Qing Luo's neck without hesitation. I only know you are going to disappear. Yi Qing Luo smiled again, raised her neck high. Then let me disappear. If I disappear, even if you want to take revenge, there's no second chance. Revenge? I don't need it. Yi Qing Luo sneered. Her 5 fingers suddenly exerted force. The woman in front of her, who looked exactly the same as her, instantly turned into ashes. Yi Qing Luo looked at her empty hand. The feeling of strangling the woman's neck seemed to still remain in her palm. She sobered up. Here. It was the same as the old man's song she met previously. It was an illusion deliberately to confuse her mind. Ha ha, ha ha ha. Suddenly, a burst of horrifying laughter came from her surroundings. That voice, wasn't it the voice of the Yi Qing Luo, who was strangled by her? What I'm most afraid of is losing the people I care about, losing Xian's love. There are many people who are worthy of Xian, but I am the only one. Even if the world is destroyed, I will absolutely not let Xian go. That voice was leisurely, word by word, set out Yi Qing Luo's thoughts. Yes, because of the gap between herself and Diemo Xian, Yi Qing Luo had indeed thought about it, and even worried. She and Diemo Xian truly loved each other. But the distance between them, destined that the road of love would not be so smooth. It wasn't that he hadn't thought about it. Perhaps standing beside Diemo Xian was another person who was worthy of him. Perhaps it would be better. However, every time this thought flashed through his mind, he would immediately remove it from his mind. She would never give up Diemo Xian to any woman. One day, she would have enough qualifications to make everyone acknowledge her, just like how those people in the dreamland acknowledged Miss Feng, acknowledging her existence. This illusion purposely captured the fleeting darkness in her heart. He weaved such an illusion. He wanted to force her to lose control of her emotions, and, devouring her body? Luckily, at the last moment, because of the illusion, she said that she wanted to kill Diemo Xian, which made her regain her consciousness. She closed her eyes and rested for a moment. The minute she opened her eyes, Yi Qing Luo was stunned. This was the garden that little Nine had brought her to before. Amidst the colorful flower beds, one could vaguely see the tall figure of a man who was doing something in the flower beds. Hearing movement behind him, the man turned around. Yi Qing Luo only felt that everything in front of her had instantly lost its color. In her eyes, there was only that peerless man. Why was he here? Could it be another dreamland? Yi Qing Luo's heart trembled as she stared at him vigilantly. Chapter 10:15. Gentle tone, affectionate expression, eyes filled with pampering. Every word that came out of his mouth seemed to be able to tug at her heart. The heartbroken heart in the illusion earlier had been healed. What's the matter? Do you want me to carry you over? Diemo Xian saw that she didn't move for a long time, and gave a low laugh as he stood up and walked over to her. His purple robe billowed, and under the bouquet of flowers, he looked like a deity who had descended. Unparalleled handsomeness, incomparable. Yi Qing Luo's feet seemed to be nailed to the ground, unable to move. Diemo Xian had already walked in front of her. His slender fingers with distinct joints swept past the hair on her forehead. Following that, he lifted her chin and gave a light kiss on her lips. His arm, tightly wrapped around her slender waist. A thick masculine scent filled Yi Qing Luo's nose. It almost made her faint. Her hand tightened. She grabbed the arm around her waist. Her voice was calm. Let go of me. This was an illusion. She couldn't be affected by the illusion. But the next moment, the man's hand suddenly covered her head. He seemed to have placed something on her head. Yiqing Luo was stunned and was about to stretch out her hand to touch. Mo Xian's large palm had already caught her little hand. His other hand flicked his sleeve. In the midst of the purple and red flower beds, a 2-meter-tall bronze mirror appeared. It clearly reflected the scene of the both of them hugging each other tightly. Mo Xian's boiling hot chest covered Yiqing Luo's delicate back. His head pillowed on her slender shoulder. One hand, wrapped around her slender waist, pulled the distance between the both of them closer. Yiqing Luo looked at the bronze mirror. On her head, there was a circle of flower garland. That was a flower garland, which was weaved by blossoms of bright red cherry blossoms. "Do you like it?" he asked in her ear. Yiqing Luo's face suddenly flushed red. The tight string in her brain, on seeing this flower garland, completely broke. Her heartbeat suddenly sped up. He personally weaved a flower garland. For her personally weaved a flower garland. She blushed and nodded. "I like it. As long as you like it. It's worth the effort I put in to weave this garland." Mo Xian chuckled lowly, as he raised his hand as if he was asking for praise. His slender fingers were covered with cuts and bruises of various sizes caused by the thin objects in his eyes. Yiqing Luo's long curly lashes fluttered as she held his hand and gently kissed those marks. The body of the man who was sticking close to him suddenly stiffened. Following that, his palms covered her body. His hands moved over her body domineeringly and not gently. Yiqing Luo's face blushed slightly, as she immediately grabbed his hand in embarrassment. However, the man lifted her chin with his other hand. He forced her to look at herself in the bronze mirror. In the mirror, the woman's face was blushing. Her eyes were curved like silk, as if she was sending out a tempting invitation. Her red lips parted slightly as she gasped softly. Her soft and delicate body squirmed restlessly. As for the man behind her, his expression was that of someone who had fallen into the valley of love. Shimmering peach blossom eyes, deep and serene. His heavy breathing was beside her ear. "Lil Luor. Lil Luor." He called out her name. His voice was hoarse, revealing a sense of urgency. Yiqing Luo's face was flushed red. Her entire body was limp, without any energy. This softness gave the man behind her more chances. His large palm had already covered Yiqing Luo's chest. Chapter 10:16. "Lil Luo, I can't take it anymore." The man leaned against her ear as he breathed heavily. His voice seemed to be filled with endless pain. "Lil Luo, give birth to a child for me." Yiqing Luo's heart jolted as it started to race. What did you say?" "Give birth." Mo Xian he wanted her to give birth to a child. Give birth to a child that belonged to the both of them? "Lil Luo, I want to be with you forever. Let's build a home here. There's you, me, and the children at home." Mo Xian's hand had already unbuttoned her robe. His voice was getting hoarser. Yiqing Luo was still conscious as her little hand held onto him, stopping his hand. "No. You can't." Her resistance made the man frown slightly. He paused in his action as he pressed Yiqing Luo's shoulder and turned her around to face him. His body suddenly moved forward and pressed Yiqing Luo against the bronze mirror. The bronze mirror's icy cold touch made Yiqing Luo's petite body tremble slightly. The man encircled her in between the bronze mirror and himself as he lowered his eyelids. "Why can't I?" She was so shy that she didn't dare to look at him. Even if they had met the last time, she was still unable to adapt to it. "Don't want to be with me forever? Don't want to build a home with me, and don't want to give birth to a child for me?" He questioned her aggressively. No. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes in a fluster as her heart suddenly trembled. "It's really not that I don't want to, but what?" His body pressed down, and his scorching breath sprayed onto her face. It made her heart even more confused. Yiqing Luo blushed as she panted lightly as she shook her head. "But there seems to be something missing. Build a family with him. Give birth to a baby that belonged to both of them. Be together forever. This kind of happiness, why wouldn't she be willing?" Only, there was a voice deep in her heart, which seemed to be calling out for something. She felt that, somewhere in her heart was empty, unable to be filled with happiness. She felt that something was still missing. The man frowned as his fingers locked onto her lower jaw as he lowered his head to kiss her. You can still be distracted now, looks like. I haven't worked hard enough? The moment his kiss came down, Yiqing Luo didn't know why but subconsciously turned her head away. His burning hot lips landed on her face. The man paused and let go of her chin. What's wrong? I don't know. Why do I always feel empty in my heart? What was that thing? It had been calling out to her from the bottom of her heart. World Mercenary Group. This is the world I promised to you. Qing Luo, it's all thanks to you. Because of your appearance, Devil Class has changed. Madam Qing Luo, I will definitely work hard to become stronger. Work hard to become qualified to follow behind you. Sister, Kitty will also protect you, just like how you protect Kitty. Vice Commander. Familiar voices kept replaying in his mind. When those voices rang out, the owner of the voice would appear in his mind. Long Yinzhan, Yin Xiaoyi, Xiao Jin. The students of Devil Class, the mercenaries of the World Group. That's right. The empty space in her heart was the happiness of being with her brothers. What she wanted was not only to be together with Emotion forever. And her brothers. Not a single one of them could be left behind. Xian. She raised her eyes and was about to speak out her thoughts. Chapter 1017. The Emotion in front of her no longer had that gentle and pampering expression on his face. That peerlessly handsome face gradually twisted into a sinister expression. His fingers clasped Yiqing Luo's wrist tightly. His fingertips were like sharp blades, as though they were about to pierce into her flesh. You're not willing to stay here with me? He asked with anger in his eyes. Her shimmering peach blossom eyes were filled with despair and heartache. Yiqing Luo hissed in pain as she frowned and stared at her hand which was clasped tightly. Xian, it's not that I'm not willing but there shouldn't be only the two of us here. But I only want everything here, only me and you. The man retorted her sharply. Xian. Yiqing Luo's slender brows knitted even tighter. Her charming eyes gazed deeply at this man whose expression was turning gloomier. As she pursed her lips tightly. Not right. Not right. You're not Emotion. Yiqing Luo's eyes widened as she retreated a few steps. This is an illusion. Right, he was not Emotion. She should still be in the illusion created by the gates of hell. No wonder. She instinctively developed an indescribable resistance towards this Emotion. She was obviously touched by everything he had done for her. But she was not willing to let him touch her. Emotion, in front of her, had a sinister expression as it slowly dispersed. His lips curled as his serene deep eyes locked onto her. I'm an illusion? Lil Luo, you can't even recognize your own man? My man, of course I can recognize him. At this moment, Yiqing Luo's face had already faded from the blush and shyness, as her charming eyes were as clear as water, calm and indifferent. So you're not him. Emotion went silent. He stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking, as his eyes were gloomy and unclear. His thick long eyelashes trembled slightly, as his sleeves moved slightly, and a dagger appeared in his hand. Yiqing Luo was stunned, as she took a step back vigilantly, but she saw Emotion passing the dagger to her, as his thin lips rose slightly. Since you think I'm an illusion then, take the dagger and stab me. After that he withdrew his hand, placed it on his heart and tapped it. Yiqing Luo's hand that was holding the dagger stiffened as her eyes widened. What do you mean? Since you're so sure that I'm an illusion, killing me is a piece of cake, isn't it? The man smiled faintly. There were no ripples in his eyes. If I kill you, will I be able to return to reality? Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips tightly. The hand holding the dagger tightened. She was sure that this was an illusion. According to the books, if one wanted to enter the gates of hell, they had to remove the 3 bugs in their body, which were greed, anger, and obsession. In that case, the test of the gates of hell was probably a test of passing through these 3 temptations and exterminating these 3 insects. It could be considered as having passed through the gates of hell. The peak of Old Man Song's profound strength was the first stage's greed. When Emotion married another woman, he drew out the resentment in her heart, and that was the second stage of anger. Demo Xian's gentle pampering, wishing to be with her for the rest of his life. Just the two of them and their child. This was the third stage's infatuation. As long as he killed this illusion, he would be able to break the illusion of the third stage. The 3 bugs would definitely be removed from her body. She took a deep breath, as her charming eyes fixated on the man in front of her. She raised the dagger, and tentatively leaned it against his chest. The man didn't have the slightest hesitation or intention to avoid it. On the contrary, he spread out his hands, displaying a look of allowing her to ravage him. Yiqing Luo gritted her teeth. This was just an illusion. The real Demo Xian was still waiting for her outside the illusion. This place, after all, was not reality. Chapter 10:18. The dagger stopped when it was just a finger's width away from Demo Xian's heart. Yiqing Luo's fingers, which were holding the dagger, had turned white. She couldn't do it, facing Demo Xian's face even if she knew. He was just an illusion, a non-existent illusion. But she still couldn't do it. The dagger, which was pressed against his heart, just couldn't pierce through. He had the same face as Demo Xian. He had the same temperament as Demo Xian. He had the same tenderness and pampering as Demo Xian. Facing such a man who was no different from Demo Xian, her heart couldn't do it. At this moment, Yiqing Luo finally understood a long time ago, when she was still the patriarch of the hidden family. The elders nagged at her daily. She must remember to cut off the roots of love. Remember, she must not fall in love with anyone. Once she fell in love, there would be a weakness. Once there was a weakness, it would be easy to be controlled by others. Just like now, Yiqing Luo was unable to do anything to Demo Xian. Even if she knew that it was just an illusion, this was probably a common problem for every woman. In terms of feelings, they would never be able to be decisive. Can't do it. The man's lips curled slightly as he lowered his eyelids, quietly staring at the anxious young lady in front of him. Unable to do anything to me. That is enough to prove that you can't be sure that I'm an illusion. You just don't want to stay here with me. Your heart is not entirely on me. You are unwilling to build a family that belongs to us. So why not give birth to a child that belongs to us? Yiqing Luo, you don't love me at all. His words were calm without any ripples, as though he was stating a fact. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes were silent as she looked at him quietly. What you said is very right, but there's one point you're wrong. He raised his brows, waiting for her words. My heart is not on you at all. Yiqing Luo said each word clearly. Because you're not Demo Xian. She closed her eyes, her slender fingers, holding a red feather fan, rolled up a hurricane, directly rolling the man in front of her up. Her fingertips flicked and flung hard. The purple robe turned into an afterimage in the sky and disappeared. At the same time, the surrounding scenery gradually dispersed. What replaced it was no longer a vast expanse of white fog. Instead, it was a dark underground palace. He was still standing in front of Hell's Gate. Around her, over 1,000 students turned back into terracotta soldiers, standing stiffly on the spot. The expression on his face was painful and unbearable. Every few breaths, a student with a pained expression would turn into a streak of white light and disappear into the crowd. These people must have been defeated by the 3 trials created by the gates of hell. Unable to control his emotions, he was eliminated from the heavenly pagoda. Sister. Kitty Lee's crisp voice was heard from behind as she hooked onto Yiqing Luo's arm. Sister has left the mirage so quickly? Yiqing Luo nodded. You're also that fast? Kitty is a beastman's cat beast. I don't have any grudges or obsessions. Kitty Lee blinked her lively eyes. After I was sent into the illusion, Big Sister appeared in the illusion. Big Sister said that she wanted to be with Kitty Lee forever, and she wanted to sign a blood contract with Kitty Lee. However, as a cat of the orc race, Kitty is extremely sensitive to your scent. Although the Big Sister in the illusory realm looks exactly the same, she smells different. Her illusory realm was all about Yiqing Luo. Because of this, Kitty Lee immediately exposed everything and returned to reality. But the other students were still trapped in the illusion, unable to walk out. Especially, Xiao Jin's expression was the ugliest. Chapter 10:19. Sister, if Xiao Jin goes on like this, will he not be able to take it? Kitty Lee stared at Xiao Jin worriedly. The person who was trapped in the illusion couldn't be touched or suddenly awakened. If the person who was trapped in the illusion was startled, there was a possibility that the person's soul would be shattered into pieces. Yiqing Luo stared at Xiao Jin, and after some time, she gave a faint smile. What do you think? Goldie will see in the illusion. Kitty Lee blinked her big round eyes and without thinking, she directly replied, Sister Xiao Yi. Cat beasts were more sensitive to human emotions than ordinary people. Yiqing Luo smiled. Looks like, after this blockhead lad comes out from the illusion, he should understand his own heart. Kitty Lee blinked her eyes in puzzlement. Xiao Jin was currently in a peach orchard forest. In the middle of the peach orchard forest, there was a small wooden house which wasn't considered spacious. It was surrounded by white fences, and there were a few adorable magical beasts wandering around. Beside the well in front of the wooden house, a petite figure had her head lowered as she washed the clothes in her hands seriously. His heart skipped a beat. There seemed to be a strange feeling that was pulling him toward that figure. But just as he neared the fences, Xiao Jin shut his eyes suddenly. No, not right. This was also an illusion. After consecutively passing through 2 rounds of illusion, Xiao Jin had already guessed that this was the 3 bugs test at the gates of hell. Although he almost died in the illusion for the first 2 rounds, but at least he managed to walk out of it. As long as he passed through the 3rd round, he would be able to pass. Xiao Jin clenched his fists tightly and immediately opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with determination, but the figure who was washing the clothes with her head lowered seemed to have sensed someone approaching as she slowly raised her head. Jin. That person raised her head, and when she saw Xiao Jin, her beautiful eyes were filled with a gentle smile. Xiao Jin was rooted to the original spot. Why was she here? Why in his illusion Yin Shaoyi would appear? That's right. The person in front of him who was dressed in a simple yet elegant blue long dress, with her sleeves rolled up to reveal her fair arms, was Yin Shaoyi. Yin Shaoyi's eyes were filled with smiles as she wiped her wet hands on her clothes. Then she slowly walked to his side and put her arms around his waist. Jin, welcome home. Xiao Jin stood rooted to the ground. His eyes were originally filled with determination, but when he saw Yin Shaoyi, it had already crumbled. She could actually be so gentle. She treated him so gently. Xiao Jin wanted to regain his rationality, trying hard to tell himself that this was an illusion. However, Yin Shaoyi's lips had already taken the initiative to kiss his lips. She grabbed his large palm and slowly placed it on her soft body. Jin, I miss you so much. His gentle voice was extremely soft. It seemed to be bewitching Xiao Jin. And Xiao Jin was indeed bewitched. She smiled at him. The smile was gentle and affectionate. It was as if he was the only one in her eyes. She had never smiled at him like this before. He hadn't spoken to Yin Shaoyi for half a month, nor had he seen Yin Shaoyi. Now he saw Yin Shaoyi's gentleness and deep love. This caused Xiao Jin's heart to gradually sink. Jin, why aren't you saying anything? Yin Shaoyi slowly raised her head and kissed his Adam's apple. Her beautiful eyes were filled with a trace of moisture. I want you to touch me. Xiao Jin's body tensed up. Under the woman's deliberate teasing, his breathing was uncontrollably messed up. Chapter 10:20. Child. Xiao Jin held her shoulders and pulled the distance between them. Are you talking about a child? The woman in his arms was blushing. Her eyes were seductive like a fox. Xiao Jin's heart was beating violently. He tightened his grip on her shoulders. It showed his forbearance at this moment. Although Xiao Jin had never had deep contact with any woman since he was young, but he understood that this feeling was a man's yearning. Every man would know what to do next without a teacher. Yes, our child. She winked at him coquettishly, her body limp in his arms, and scattered kisses fell on his body. Then what about him? Xiao Jin's throat moved as he forced himself to ask. Yes, child. How could he and Yin Shaoyi have a child? This must be an illusion. He could not fall into an illusion. Are you deliberately teasing me? The woman raised her fist and lightly landed on his chest. The woman's coquettish voice sounded in his arms. Didn't you say that you would give me another child, and give me a surprise today? That's why I sent him away. Her voice became softer and softer. In the end, she buried herself in his arms shyly. Xiao Jin's breathing quickened. His dark eyes gazed deeply at the woman in his arms. Her little face was blushing like an innocent girl, captivating. Her beautiful eyes were hazy, and her coquettish appearance made one infatuated. This was not an illusion. How could this be an illusion? He had Yin Xiaoyi, a child that belonged to them, their home. How could it be an illusion? This was the place that truly belonged to him. Jin, where's the surprise? The woman blushed and looked up at him. Xiao Jin's eyes gradually deepened. He stretched out his long arms, and held her waist in his arms. Crossing the fence, he walked directly into the wooden hut, and pressed her down on the bed. His low voice was filled with yearning. Surprise, I'll give it to you now. The woman under him smiled coquettishly, her arms circling his neck, and offered her red lips. Xiao Jin bent down and was about to kiss her. In his mind, a furious voice suddenly resounded. Xiao Jin, since you like Tao Tao so much, why don't you look for her? Why do you have to harass me? I don't want to see you. I hate you. Xiao Jin, I hate you. Xiao Jin, I hate you. Xiao Jin's chest felt stifled, his expression somewhat absent-minded. The woman under him arched her body slightly, and moved closer to him. Jin, what's wrong? You. Xiao Jin's brows knitted tightly as he clutched his chest with one hand. What was going on? That voice just now, wasn't that Yin Xiaoyi's voice? She said hate him? But the woman beneath him called him Jin, in the same gentle voice. Why does my heart feel so painful and uncomfortable? Jin, don't think about it. Don't think about it anymore. In your heart, in your eyes, just think about me, think about me. The woman beneath him seemed to have sensed his inattention. Her arched body pressed against Xiao Jin's body. She wrapped her arms around Xiao Jin's neck, her warm kisses teasing his senses without warning. It was just that this time, Xiao Jin didn't have the feeling of being bewitched like before. He also didn't have the feeling of sinking into it. The stifled feeling in his chest made him unable to care about the woman's teasing. Reaching out, he pushed the woman away and flipped himself off the bed. Jin! She called out in a panic, reaching out, wanting to grab Xiao Jin. Chapter 10:21. He remembered that he secretly hugged the unconscious Yin Xiaoyi. He remembered that he forcefully kissed Yin Xiaoyi. He remembered that Yin Xiaoyi intentionally avoided him, not willing to see him again. He remembered that Yin Xiaoyi said, hated him. This Yin Xiaoyi wasn't Yin Xiaoyi at all. Everything here was an illusion. Jinzi. Yiqing Luo saw Xiao Jin sweating profusely and his eyelids twitching. He should have passed the third round. When she called out softly, Xiao Jin suddenly opened his eyes. His pupils were filled with astonishment and shock. He panted heavily, as he sat down heavily on the ground. Xiao Jin, what did you meet in the illusion? Why do you look so terrible? Kitty Li squatted on the ground, looking at him curiously. Xiao Jin stared at Kitty Li, still panting heavily. His gaze was focused for some time before it gathered. I didn't meet anything. He shifted his gaze, shaking his head. Yiqing Luo stared at him meaningfully for some time, as she more or less understood something. Greed, anger, and obsession. These 3 rounds, the first 2 rounds, as long as one's willpower was firm, it was actually very easy to pass through. But the third round, obsession. No one could resist this round. That was to present the most desired and desired thing in human nature, right in front of them. In the third round, without any accidents, they would all sink into it. What was the obsession in Xiao Jin's heart? What was it? Probably. It was no different from hers. Just at this moment, Long Yunjian, who was standing beside her, suddenly gave a dull moan. Suddenly, he opened his azure blue eyes. Following that, like Xiao Jin, he fell onto the ground unsteadily, as his face turned pale, as he broke out in cold sweat. Ajan! Yiqing Luo immediately went up to support Long Yunjian, as she was about to take out her scroll to wipe the cold sweat off his forehead. Suddenly his large palm slapped her hand away. She was stunned. This slap, although it wasn't heavy, but it was still a little painful. She frowned. Jean, what's the matter? Long Yunjian suddenly regained his senses, as his azure blue eyes wavered, as he directly snatched the handkerchief from her hand. Nothing. I just haven't regained my senses, don't bother about me. He carelessly wiped the sweat off his forehead as he turned around. Perhaps he had encountered something that he found hard to talk about in the illusion. Yiqing Luo didn't interrogate further, as she stood up and gazed at the remaining few Devil Class students. After about an hour, the students of Devil Class had finally overcome their 3 views and successfully walked out of the illusion. Yiqing Luo gave them another incense worth of time to adjust their emotions. After that, the 10 of them walked past the other students who were still trapped in the illusion and entered the gates of hell. This time there were no obstructions. After stepping into Hell's Gate, everything in front of him didn't immediately transform into another space like when he first entered Hell's Gate. In front of him was still the gloomy underground palace. An infinitely long flight of stairs spiraled downwards. As far as the eye could see, it was impossible to see the bottom. And the most frightening thing was, in this huge underground palace, there was only this bottomless staircase floating in the air. There were no fences around, no footholds except stairs. What is this? Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes vigilantly and said with a dignified expression, It seems that after passing through 2 levels, there is still no way to leave the heavenly pagoda. This ability assessment. Just how many levels were there? Yiqing Luo had an especially strange feeling. This totally didn't seem to be an assessment related to one's own ability. On the contrary, it seemed to be testing one's soul. Chapter 1022. Yiqing Luo's mind instantly cleared up. The King of Darkness from the Dark Forces. Didn't he want the cultivator's soul? The director wanted to bring forward the interclass competition to hold the ability assessment. In actual fact, it was to test the student's soul. A clean, without any distracting thoughts, was the most delicious soul. Yiqing Luo finally understood the reason why the director insisted on holding the ability assessment. If this assessment was for the soul which the King of Darkness wanted, that meant that the students who passed the ability assessment had a high possibility of falling into the hands of the King of Darkness. This assessment their Devil Class must definitely pass. There was a possibility that this was a way to get close to the King of Darkness. Everyone be careful, this round is not simple. The first 2 rounds were all about taking one's life, or crushing one's soul from the depths of one's heart. This round was absolutely not simple. Enai Ruopan surveyed the surroundings and looked at the half-open gates of hell, muttering to himself for a moment. Madam Qing Luo, this is the inside of the gates of hell. Which means, there is a possibility that this is the stairway to the 18 levels of hell. 18 levels of hell? The other students repeated the sentence in disbelief, their eyes filled with astonishment. 18 levels of hell is not a place for dead people to go, oui. Isn't the gates of hell also a place for dead people to enter? Tong Ziqing's expression was still cold. 18 levels of hell it is. Let's charge through it first. While speaking, her gaze unknowingly looked towards Long Yunjian. Long Yunjian seemed as though he didn't notice it as he replied indifferently. No matter if it's a place for dead people or not. Since we're already here, if we want to pass the test and take part in the interclass competition, then we must go. When the other students heard that, they kept away their fearful expressions and immediately stood up straight. Yes, class monitor. Yiqing Luo looked at the spiraling downwards, the bottomless stairway and looked down. All she saw was a patch of strange green candlelight. Other than the stairway, she couldn't see anything else. Yiqing Luo's vigilance didn't dissipate because of this. She took the lead and stepped on the stairway first as she walked down carefully. After walking for 10 over steps, she didn't discover anything strange, nor did she sense any danger. Go down slowly, and be prepared to use your profound jade heart to maintain your body's lightness. Yiqing Luo instructed. The few of them responded, and took turns to step on the stairway. They walked extremely slowly, and in a short while, they had already passed through more than 100 floors. However, the surroundings were still empty. Only the green candlelight floated along the stairs, illuminating them. Right at this moment, they heard a commotion coming from the top of the stairs, which was also the end of Hell's Gate. From the sound of it, there were at least 20 to 30 people. They had successfully walked out of the illusion. Yiqing Luo frowned as she stopped in her tracks and looked up. A group of students swarmed in. The first person to stand beside the stairs and look down at them was actually Shangguan Liuli, that big-breasted, brainless woman who was controlled by the dark forces. He actually passed the test of the 3 separations? Could it be that he had borrowed the power of the mysterious Yinqi? How dare you cheat in the heavenly pagoda? Aren't you afraid of being discovered by the teacher of justice? Chapter 1023. Shangguan Liuli's voice attracted quite a number of students' attention. They were shocked that after walking into the gates of hell, they didn't fall into any other space or illusion. Suddenly hearing Shangguan Liuli's words, they subconsciously rushed over. Then he saw the spiral staircase descending, whereas Yiqing Luo and the rest had already walked along the staircase for a long distance. How could this bunch of waste pass the 3 rounds of illusion? High profound class students were filled with anger. They almost fell into the illusion, and if it wasn't for the fact that they found the loophole in the illusion at the last minute to regain their consciousness, they wouldn't be able to walk out of the illusion. How would these waste have the ability to walk out of the illusion? They even snatched the chance to head towards the 3rd space. It must be as what Shangguan Liuli said. That illusion was Yiqing Luo's doing. Yiqing Luo wanted to take the opportunity to pass the ability assessment for the 10 of them in her class. Specially created an illusion for them. Otherwise, how would they have the chance to snatch the chance? That bunch of waste actually treated them as fools to make a fool out of them. Yiqing Luo, don't even think of escaping. Devil class, you stop right there. I'm going to kill you. Treacherous villains. A bunch of villains who only know how to play dirty tricks. Those high profound class and intermediate profound class students had intense hatred in their eyes. One by one, they followed the staircase and chased after Yiqing Luo and the rest. That bunch of people must be sick. Xiao Jin stared at those 20 over people as they walked up the staircase in unison. One Shangguan Liuli, with just a few simple words, was able to lead them by the nose so easily. These people. Are they really the so-called elite students? The other students shook their heads, but they couldn't conceal their contempt towards these so-called high profound class, intermediate profound class students. It was said that Heavenly Academy was the best academy in Nirvana realm. All the students were extremely talented, which made one envious. Especially for the high profound class. Those were the elite students among the geniuses. But the students of the devil class were deeply suspicious. They felt that the intelligence of the high profound class was so low that they couldn't bear to ridicule them. There's a problem here. Yiqing Luo calmly opened her mouth as her eyes squinted slightly. Her fingers gently brushed past the green candlelight floating in the air. The stairway to the 18 levels of hell is also one of the tests of the mysterious pagoda. Yiqing Luo had been paying attention to the surrounding candlelight for a long time. The faint green candlelight was strange and cold. Even though there was no wind, it swayed the surrounding shadows. What made Yiqing Luo felt strange was when the candlelight flickered. It gave her an extremely uncomfortable feeling. The stairway to the 18 levels of hell is almost the same as the first trial of the upper profound pagoda, the golden desert. Yiqing Luo retracted her hand as she explained. These candlelight give off a scent that humans are unable to smell, but it can cause a huge impact on humans. This smell can release the darkest and evilest thoughts in a human's heart and affect their emotions. That was to say, the students who had barged into the gates of hell had all been infected by the evil thoughts of the green candlelight gas. That was why he became easily angered, dark, and ruthless? Big sister is right. Kitty smelled it. Kitty Lee raised her paw. The minute I entered, Kitty smelled a strange smell. Kitty thought it was the Yin Qi from the gates of hell, so I didn't think too much about it. Then why are we fine? Tong Ziqing frowned as she asked. Chapter 1024. just as the 10 students from the devil class were about to set off towards the Shangxian Plaza. It was unknown how God Pirate avoided the various devices around the college and sneaked into the devil class. He wore a long robe that shone with golden ingots. The jades in his hair trembled as he moved. Coincidentally, he was holding a pot of medicinal soup in his hand, which emitted a medicinal fragrance. This made Yiqing Luo speechless and unable to vent. Holy Pirate sneaked into the college, just to give them a pot of medicine. They said that this pot of medicinal soup would be helpful for their strength test today. Before the 10 of them set off, each of them took a sip. Enai Ruopan's eyes lit up. In other words, the medicinal soup that God Pirate gave us is to stabilize our minds and isolate the Yin energy and miasma from the gates of hell and the 18 levels of hell. No wonder they could always wake up at the most critical moment in the illusion. It was likely that Holy Thief's medicinal soup had taken effect. Yiqing Luo nodded her head. Indeed so. At that time I smelled the ingredients of the medicinal soup, but I didn't think too much about it. Now that I see these green candlelight, I understand that the medicinal soup is resisting against Yin Qi and miasma. That pot of medicinal soup should not have been prepared by God Pirate. To be able to know the contents of the Heavenly Pagoda's test and prepare the medicinal soup beforehand. He was also acquainted with God Thief, and he could use God Thief's hand to deliver it to them. Who could it be? In his mind, suddenly flashed that scene in the World Group's old residence. In Holy Pirate's room, he saw the scene between Holy Pirate and Ghost Doctor. This medicinal soup was brewed by the Ghost Doctor, right? What was the relationship between the Ghost Doctor and God Thief? She didn't have time to think about it. Shangguan Liuli's voice was already nearing. Yiqing Luo, don't even think about running. You almost caused us to die in the illusion, and you still want to escape? Today, I must dismember your corpse into 10,000 pieces. Shangguan Liuli walked very quickly. He didn't seem to care about the fact that there were no fences on either side of the stairs. Furthermore, the stairs were full of twists and turns. If he wasn't careful, he might miss the stairs and fall into the bottomless abyss. In just a short moment, he had already caught up to Yiqing Luo and the others. Behind him, those students from the high profound class were moving step by step. His heroic spirit soared to the sky, and the imposing manner of seeking revenge on Yiqing Luo had been greatly diminished by this terrifying flight of stairs. Shangguan Liuli was alone, yet she dared to charge at them. It should be said that she was brave. Or should it be said that he could do whatever he wanted just by relying on the mysterious Yin Qi? Yiqing Luo gave a faint laugh as she ignored Shangguan Liuli's hooting. You guys leave, don't bother about her. For the ability assessment, Yiqing Luo didn't intend to let Devil Class's students take action. After all, not only the students in the Heaven Pagoda, who were still taking the test, would know the secret of the Devil Class in advance. The general situation in the pagoda would also be narrated by one of the teachers in charge of the Heaven Pagoda. There was no point in knowing everything now. Long Yunjian and the others nodded slightly and continued forward slowly. He did not lose his rhythm because of the students' pursuit. No matter what, safety was the most important. Yiqing Luo stood on the spot, waiting for Shangguan Liuli to approach. Shangguan Liuli was like a crazy woman as she directly dashed in front of Yiqing Luo and stretched out her hand to push her. Yiqing Luo, if you have the ability, then make a move on me. I'm warning you. This is the Heaven Pagoda, and if you dare to make a move on me, you will be disqualified from the assessment. Shangguan Liuli was delighted. This was the consequence of Yiqing Luo's arrogance. She actually dared to bring only 9 students into the assessment. Once Yiqing Luo's qualification was disqualified, it would be the same as Devil Class, with no chance to take part in the interclass competition. Chapter 1025. Yiqing Luo only moved sideways slightly to avoid Shangguan Liuli's palm strike. Shangguan Liuli pushed empty air and almost lost her footing as her entire body fell forward. This fall made Shangguan Liuli shriek in terror. She stood at the side of the staircase as she bent down to look below. The endless staircase, she had no idea how deep or how high it was below. A jade pendant fell down from her waist. For some time, there was no sound of the jade pendant hitting the ground. Shangguan Liuli's face turned pale. Those students who carefully stepped on the staircase also shuddered. This staircase, how deep was it? For such a long time, there was no sound of the jade pendant falling onto the ground. If it fell, it was possible that she would be smashed into smithereens. Shangguan Liuli was so frightened that her hands turned into a spiral shape as she kept moving backwards. Following that, her body fell backwards as her buttocks fell heavily onto the staircase. Shangguan Liuli still had a lingering fear as she touched her chest as she trembled in fear. When her gaze landed on Yiqing Luo, who was standing by the side watching the show with her arms crossed, Shangguan Liuli's petite body shuddered as the fearful expression on her face was replaced by sullen anger. Yiqing Luo, are you doing this on purpose? You intentionally want me to fall down. You want to kill me. There was a hole in this lady's brain. Yiqing Luo clicked her tongue as she glanced at her with a smile yet not a smile. According to what you said, if I push you, you can't avoid it? If you avoid it, then you're trying to kill me? Her words had just ended as her figure speedily approached. Her palm moved and pushed towards Shangguan Liuli. Yiqing Luo, how dare you? Shangguan Liuli was so scared that her face turned pale as she scrambled up the stairs. If you dare to push me, you will be disqualified from the assessment. See, didn't you also avoid it? You're trying to make me fall down on purpose, intentionally trying to kill me? Yiqing Luo spread out her hands as she used Shangguan Liuli's original words to counter. It's said that a woman's heart is the most vicious. Student Shangguan is really vicious. Shangguan Liuli was so angry that her face turned pale. Before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by Yiqing Luo. Moreover, if I push you down, I'll be disqualified from the assessment. Earlier when I dodged, didn't I help you retain your assessment rights? Come to think of it, you should thank me. Ha ha ha. Devil Class's 9 people who had been paying close attention to their situation. Upon hearing Yiqing Luo's shameless words, which made Shangguan Liuli unable to rebuke, couldn't help but burst out laughing. Student Shangguan, what Qing Luo said is right. You should thank Qing Luo. Xiao Jin nodded in agreement. Not only do you have to thank me, you have to apologize as well, Tong Ziqing said coldly. Every word she said sounded like a command. Apologize? That's right. Student Shangguan relied on the fact that he is a student of the intermediate profound class and wanted to harm our devil class students. If this matter were to spread to the other students or the academy's ears, Anai Rupin covered her mouth under the veil and giggled. Intermediate profound class students attempted to harm devil class students during the academy's assessment and even threatened devil class students. Isn't this gimmick explosive enough? The successive words caused the faces of the 20 over students to turn green and white. Shangguan Liuli's expression was the ugliest. This bunch of trash actually had such a sharp tongue. In front of them elite students, they even dared to talk back. Did they think that with Yiqing Luo as their backing, they could do anything? Chapter 1026. Yiqing Luo stood there calmly with her arms crossed over her chest. As though she totally didn't care about Shangguan Liuli's provocation. The hatred in Shangguan Liuli's eyes grew thicker as a black chi swam around in her eyes. Yiqing Luo, don't be too complacent. Even if I'm disqualified, my intermediate profound class too. If 10 of us can walk out of the heavenly pagoda, then we can still take part in the interclass competition. But you, once you're disqualified, your devil class will definitely lose. Shangguan Liuli laughed out loud. She only had one aim now. That was to make Yiqing Luo disqualified from the assessment. To make devil class unable to take part in the interclass competition. Her gaze turned cold as her expression suddenly turned severe. Out of nowhere, he took out a long sword. Leaping up, he went past Yiqing Luo and headed straight towards those trash and devil class, charging straight towards them. Want to touch my people? Yiqing Luo scoffed lightly as her 5 fingers opened up and a palm chi turned into a huge dragon. The rumbling chi brought along a strong hurricane. Shangguan Liuli's figure swayed, and under the strong hurricane, she couldn't maintain her figure at all. She recalled the scene of the jade pendant falling down the stairs without any sound. Shangguan Liuli didn't dare to be presumptuous. She could only give up on killing the bunch of trash in devil class and stabilize herself first. She had just stood still. Suddenly, a deafening roar was heard from the bottom of the stairs, from far to near. But in the blink of an eye, a huge shadow rushed in front of everyone. That shadow landed heavily on the stairs beside Shangguan Liuli. The huge figure separated Yiqing Luo and the other 9 students. Boom! A loud sound was heard and the rumbling air waves shook the stairs. Those students who had just walked up 10 over steps immediately wailed like ghosts as their legs turned soft on the stairs, not daring to walk any further. Shangguan Liuli was also shocked by this shock as she knelt down on the ground. She could clearly feel a powerful force behind her, right in front of her. But she didn't dare to turn back. What on earth would rush up from the bottom of the stairs? Yiqing Luo could see it clearly. She squinted her eyes as she stared calmly at that lump of thing behind Shangguan Liuli. It should be called a thing. It was a lump that looked like a lump of meat. On top of the meat, there were even scorching bubbles, as if the meat was boiling. It was so massive that it occupied 5 to 6 flights of stairs. It looked extremely disgusting and terrifying. What is that? So disgusting. My God. How did this meatball jump up from the bottom of the stairs? Meatball? Shangguan Liuli's eyes widened in fear. She shivered and slowly turned her head. Behind her, there was a flight of stairs that was only a step away from her. It really was a ball of bubbling meat. Her eyes were filled with terror, and she was about to break into a run. An eye suddenly appeared on the fleshy meatball. Those eyes were the size of Shangguan Liuli. A monster! Monster! Shangguan Liuli's legs went soft, and she immediately turned around and ran back. However, there was no room for her to lift her leg. His eyes darted around for a moment. Soon after, the meatball moved and stuck itself to Shangguan Liuli's body. Ah, it's disgusting. Scram! Scram! Shangguan Liuli struggled to break free from that meatball. But the meatball seemed to be stuck to her body. When she pushed it away, a thin layer of meat membrane appeared in the middle, and immediately adhered tightly to Shangguan Liuli's body. Chapter 1027. Immediately following that, a shocking scene happened. That lump of meat had already stuck Shangguan Liuli's entire chest together. That lump of meat bubbled and slowly spread out, like a meat paste. That meat paste, bit by bit, merged Shangguan Liuli's body into that lump of meat. That bunch of students gave off a terrified scream. What was this? What was this thing? It actually swallowed a person. A person was merged alive into the lump of meat. They could clearly see Shangguan Liuli's shrill cries for help as her hands struggled. But her body was still being invaded by that lump of meat, inch by inch. Finally, the entire head entered the scene of the lump of meat. Simply disgusting. Horrifying. Making one's hair stand on end. Monster! Monster! Those 10 over students who had already walked down the stairs were already scrambling and running back. The staircase was originally not wide. This crowd of people was rushing back. Under the continuous pushing and shoving, there were a few students who couldn't stand properly, as they directly fell down from the staircase. Only to hear those few students' shrill cries. That sound persisted for a long period of time, and finally disappeared. But no one heard the sound of a heavy object landing on the ground. Only that miserable cry was still lingering in everyone's ears. Those students were so frightened that their faces turned pale, as they trembled all over. All of them stood stiffly on the spot. No one dared to move recklessly. If this crowd continued, perhaps the next one to fall down would be them. They stared in terror at that lump of meat, which had completely merged into Shangguan Liuli's body, as their hearts were filled with terror. Following that lump of meat's target must be Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo stood by the side, the nearest to the lump of meat. Devil Class's 9 people also thought so. Long Yunjian had already started walking, as he rushed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. But he was stopped by Yiqing Luo's shout. All of you continue. Long Yunjian's footsteps halted. Under the black veil, Yi-Ching Luo couldn't see his expression. But she knew, Long Yunjian definitely didn't approve of her acting tough alone. No matter, leave it to me. Yi-Ching Luo's gaze was resolute, as she said every word. The 9 of them could not take action here. She alone was enough to deal with this meatball. Long Yunjian stood there quietly, his figure tall and motionless. After some time, Xiao Jin walked up and tugged Long Yunjian's arm, pulling him back. Since Qing Luo said to hand it over to her, then we shall believe her. Long Yunjian's entire body tensed up, and under Xiao Jin's pushing, he returned to the devil class students. The group of 9 continued to walk down the stairs, looking back 3 times with every step. The lump of meat moved slowly. Soon after, a huge eye appeared on the bubbling ball of meat once again. The eyeball was spinning. His gaze fell onto Yi-Ching Luo without blinking. Yi-Ching Luo squinted her eyes slightly as she stared vigilantly at the lump of meat. After swallowing Shengguan Liuli, the meatball clearly tasted the sweetness of a human. His big, wide eyes were filled with a greedy look. Following that, the meat lump slowly moved towards Yi-Ching Luo bit by bit. Just then, the glower flame fan in Yi-Ching Luo's hand rotated in her palm. Soon after, it turned into a spiral, and like a sharp blade, it spun towards the lump of meat. The red feather fan, profound chi surged into the sky. When it got close to the lump of meat, a bewitching red glow suddenly rose. Like a ball of flame, in an instant, it streaked past that lump of meat. The lump of meat instantly split into pieces, as minced meat splattered. Chapter 1028. She cut that lump of meat into pieces. Student E. Is indeed a strong one, so powerful. She actually did it so easily. Those students' suspenseful hearts finally calmed down. Yi-Ching Luo's expression didn't relax at all. Her slender brows creased slightly as her charming eyes stared intently at that lump of meat that was split into pieces. Somehow, she felt that things wouldn't end so easily. Indeed, just as everyone heaved a sigh of relief, suddenly, someone from the high-profound class screamed in horror. Something's wrong. Look. Hiss hiss hiss. Another strange sound was heard. The minced meat on the ground, gathered bit by bit, and reassembled into a lump of meat. That huge eye stared fiercely at Yi-Ching Luo. What kind of monster is this? It can actually regenerate itself. Xie Yin squatted by the side of the stairs as he stared at that lump of meat, and then looked at the young lady whose back was facing him. His brows knitted even tighter. This monster could actually regenerate itself, after being split into pieces. Yi-Ching Luo still had a way to deal with it. Xie Yin squinted his eyes as the scene of Yi Fengru returning to the god-slaying mercenary group appeared in his mind, covered in injuries. Not only Yi Fengru, their group leader Nangong Firen, and the others were all covered in injuries. And, other than them, the other 20 over mercenaries were all buried in the Ling King's tomb. The one who saved them. It was Yi-Ching Luo. He pursed his lips meaningfully. He wanted to see what remarkable ability Yi-Ching Luo had to make such a powerful group leader fall for her. The lump of meat, which had reassembled itself into a lump of meat, was filled with anger. The steaming, bubbling ball of meat rolled a few times. Suddenly, from the softness, 2 long meaty hands grew out, like a human's arm. An arm formed from a lump of meat. It grabbed towards Yi-Ching Luo's direction. The lump of meat's speed was extremely fast. But in a blink of an eye, that 2 meaty arms had already stretched out in front of Yi-Ching Luo. Its 5 fingers stretched out, and was about to grab Yi-Ching Luo's shoulder. The meaty arms were still bubbling. There wasn't any fragrance from boiling meat, but only a nauseating stench. Yi-Ching Luo frowned as she swiftly retreated a few steps to avoid those 2 meaty arms. The devouring flame fan in his hand quickly slashed out a wind blade. The wind blade was so sharp that it directly cut off the 2 arms. The 2 meaty arms fell to the ground, rolled a few times and fell down the stairs. The meatball's gaze became more and more ruthless. It exerted force, and 2 new arms grew out of its severed flesh arms. The 2 new arms were obviously more disgusting than the previous arms. The stench also became extremely strong. Yi-Ching Luo's body bent down, and rolled a few rounds down the stairs. Then he slammed the ground and leaped up. After retreating a few steps, Yiqing Luo closed her glower flame fan and stood firm. What are you? His eyes were filled with hatred as he stared at her. It wanted to tear apart this human who injured it. It wanted to swallow this human into its body in the most painful way possible. Due to its anger, the surface of the plump meatball was constantly bubbling. Immediately after, the meatball launched another attack. The meatball once again collapsed into a pile of meat paste. It directly spread towards Yiqing Luo's legs. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes, carefully sizing up its weakness as she swiftly retreated. Just as that pile of meat paste was about to reach her legs, Yiqing Luo's glower flame fan opened, and the condensed profound qi directly exploded that pile of meat paste. Chapter 1029. Her 5 fingers flicked, and the open feather fan shot out a few silver wires in a split second. The silver wires shot out as fine as rain. It swiftly wrapped around those pieces of meat that were blown away. Those pieces of meat were bound by the iron wires. After Yiqing Luo stood still, her gaze quickly wandered around the meat lump. This meat lump had the ability to recover automatically. The ability to recover definitely needed a medium. With that medium as the center, it could continue to recover. What she needed to do now was to organize the meat lump to recover. Try her best to find the medium to recover. As long as the medium was destroyed, the meat lump had no possibility of recovery. Sure enough, after the meat lump was blown into pieces once again, those pieces of meat that were splattered below the stairs gradually floated up and gathered towards a certain place. And the pieces of meat which were bound by Yiqing Luo's silver wires also gave off a resonance vibration. Yiqing Luo pinched the silver wires tightly, feeling the direction that the silver wires wanted to head towards. Her gaze was fixed on the place where the meat lump first appeared. There was a piece of meat the size of a fist. Some pieces of meat, which were not bound by the silver wires, were constantly flying towards that meat lump. Pieces of meat, merged with that fist-sized meat lump, condensed into a ball. The pieces of meat which were bound by the silver wires kept struggling and vibrating, trying to get closer to that piece of meat lump. Yiqing Luo swiftly pinched the feather fan tightly. The other palm flipped and struck out a palm wind. The palm wind shot out an enchanting red ray, charging towards that piece of meat lump. Perhaps it sensed the existence of danger. Yiqing Luo's palm had just struck out. The pieces of meat which were bound by the silver wires gave off an increasingly intense vibration and reaction. Bam! The silver wires broke one by one. Yiqing Luo staggered backwards a few steps because of the sudden disappearance of this force. Almost stepping on the stairs, she stabilized her figure, staring at those pieces of meat which broke through the silver wires and flew towards that piece of meat lump, blocking Yiqing Luo's palm wind. Once again, the scene of the pieces of meat flying around played out. However, this time and time again, the pieces of meat flying around did not give one the slightest sense of relief, or the feeling of relief. But it made one's heart turn cold, increasingly fearful. Time and time again it was torn apart. Time and time again it automatically recovered. This lump of meat was a monster that couldn't be killed. Yiqing Luo's expression was cold. Her long and narrow eyes stared unblinkingly at the lump of meat. She discovered that the ball of meat was continuously recovering, and each recovery was taking longer than the previous one. It was as if his energy was gradually being depleted. In other words, is there a limit to the number of times this meatball can recover? Once it was restored to a certain number of times, the meatball would run out of energy. It would lose the ability to recover. Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly lit up as her 5 fingers opened up the glower flame fan, preparing to completely exhaust the recovery ability of this meatball. The ball of flesh, which had already recovered, rushed toward the other end of the stairs at the speed of light, in the direction of the hyperfound class students, who had already gone down more than 10 steps. Yiqing Luo was stunned and immediately realized something as she reprimanded in a low voice. "All of you quickly move aside. This monster wants to devour humans to replenish its energy." Hearing this, the students turned pale with fright. The scene of Shangguan Liuli being devoured was still vivid in their minds. No one wanted to become food for that meatball. No one wanted to be swallowed by that meatball. It was simply too disgusting. It was simply too terrifying. However, their speed was no match for the speed of the meatball. Chapter 10:30. Ah, help. I don't want to be eaten. I don't want to die. One by one, the high-profound class students did not even have the intention to resist. They only knew how to cry like ghosts and howl like wolves as they scrambled up the stairs. And those intermediate class and high-profound class students, who had yet to walk down the stairs, turned around and ran. Xieyan also immediately escaped from the scene. A student had already been stuck to the meat lump. In just a blink of an eye, that student had already been sucked into the meat lump. Following that, the meat lump stuck to another student. That student was Lu Shuiyu. Her usually cold and indifferent face turned pale with fright as the pieces of meat stuck to her body. She grabbed Lu Shuilan, who was beside her. "Sister, save me." "No, no." Lu Shuilan screamed in fear as she slapped her hand away and used her hands and feet to climb up the stairs. Along the way, she even kicked Lu Shuiyu towards the direction of the meat lump. Normally, none of the people who surrounded him were willing to help him, saying that he was the vice president and that he was the vice president. All of them escaped extremely quickly, and no one cared about her. Lu Shuiyu's eyes were filled with hatred. She clenched her fists and struggled with all her might. She could clearly feel that sticky, fleshy sensation clinging tightly to her back. It was as if there was a pulling force that kept pulling her towards the depths of the meat lump. In this world, there was no one and nothing that could be relied on. The only one that could be relied on was herself. Lu Shuiyu no longer cared, and did not expect anyone to save her. After all, she was a high-profound class student, and the faculty council's vice president. Lu Shuiyu's reaction was not as slow as the other students. Her eyes turned cold as she gathered her profound qi. Before her hand was sucked into the meat lump, she struck it with her palm. She ran forward with all her might. The clothes on her back and the meat lump pulled out pieces of thin film that could not be broken. Lu Shuiyu pursed her red lips. Unless she had to tear her clothes to escape from the meat lump's suction. Otherwise, she would not be able to escape from the meat lump's suction ability. But once she tore her clothes, inside, there was only her indecent clothes. There were so many students around. Wouldn't that ruin his innocence? Wouldn't Si Yanmu despise her for ruining her reputation? Despise her for not knowing how to be clean? No, she could not let Si Yanmu despise her. Lu Shuiyu's face had already turned deathly pale, and her forehead was dripping with sweat. He kept running forward, trying to pull away from the meatball. However, the meatball had already absorbed half of her body. Whoosh whoosh. The sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. Lu Shuiyu only felt her body become light, and her whole body was separated from the ball of meat. She quickly leaped up the stairs and ran in the direction of the gates of hell. As she ran, she did not forget to look back. The elegant young girl dressed in a greenish-white uniform slowly withdrew the wind blades she had shot out. The devouring flame fan, that was like a raging inferno, was also emitting profound energy. That absolutely beautiful face was calm and indifferent, without the slightest extra emotion. It was her, Yiqing Luo, who saved him. Lu Shuiyu stopped in her tracks in disbelief. She could not believe that at this moment, the people who usually followed her, even her own sister, did not help her at all. And that Yiqing Luo, whom she had targeted, schemed and wanted to take her life, had saved her. The shock that this caused to Lu Shuiyu was incomparably huge. The meatball's huge eyes slid across the meat lump, because Yiqing Luo had disturbed its foraging. It slid all the way to Yiqing Luo's direction before it stopped. Chapter 10:31. After swallowing 2 students consecutively, the meatball's energy had been replenished. Its eyes were glowing with a strange red glow. "Why are you still standing there for? Still want to be eaten?" Yiqing Luo raised her eyes indifferently and swept a glance at Lu Shuiyu. Lu Shuiyu shuddered. "You. Why save me?" These 5 words were interrupted by Yiqing Luo coldly. "I don't want to save you. just for my own survival. What she said wasn't polite words. Whether Lu Shuiyu was dead or alive, to her, it didn't matter. She stopped the meatball from absorbing Lu Shuiyu because she couldn't let the meatball absorb the human's energy to replenish its own energy. Once the meatball automatically recovered, it would return to its original state. It would be more difficult for her to deal with the meatball. Lu Shuiyu clenched her teeth, didn't say another word, turned around and ran towards the direction of the gates of hell. Yiqing Luo retracted her gaze and stared at the meatball whose eyes were glowing red. Her lips curled into a faint smile. Why don't we try? Will I exhaust my profound energy first? Or will you not be able to automatically recover first? That huge eyes, its eyeballs rolled a few rounds, its gaze getting more and more vicious. It was angry at Yiqing Luo's provocation. But Yiqing Luo's expression was calm, her lips still raised slightly. Why? Scared. That meatball, under the rolling bubbles, stretched out two long meaty arms, grabbing towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo was calm, without any fear as she stared at the incoming meatball arms. That calm and beautiful face unknowingly gave off a strangers don't come near kind of strong imposing manner. Just as the meaty arms were about to attack her face, Yiqing Luo's figure swayed. Her figure turned into a remnant shadow, swiftly disappearing in front of the meatball. Yiqing Luo displayed her own set of footwork, following closely down the stairs. After such a long time, the 9 people in Devil class had already walked to many levels. Looking over, she couldn't see any traces of the 9 people. Yiqing Luo rushed down the stairs with ease. That meatball missed, only feeling that it was being teased by a human. It immediately rolled its round body in anger, grumbling as it chased after her. It was a huge meatball, rolling on the stairs. No matter how one looked at it, it was extremely bizarre. After running for a distance, Yiqing Luo took a look at the illusion of the stairs. The smile at the corner of his mouth showed his confidence. She flipped her hair over her shoulder and narrowed her eyes as she stared at the meatball chasing after her. Zhang Xian abruptly spread his fingers apart, and a heavy shockwave surged forth like thunder. Boom! The xianqi smashed onto the meatball's body. Yiqing Luo flipped her palm, and a silver thread shot out from the glower flame fan. She quickly picked up the silver thread and shot it at the surrounding stairs. In the blink of an eye, the silver threads had trapped the fist-sized piece of meat in the formation. This was the reason why she had brought meatball all the way here, as if she was walking a dog. Yiqing Luo noticed the sequence of these bottomless stairs. Once they reached the first floor, the angle at which the stairs rotated was a simple formation. If he could make use of this terrain to design a formation, he would be able to control the ball of meat in a short period of time. The minced meat gathered towards the core piece of meat. However, when it approached the meat core, it was blocked by a transparent barrier. Chapter 1032. This array wouldn't be able to hold on for long. The meat lump's automatic recovery ability was too strong. She had to end the battle quickly. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed, as though reflecting a piercingly cold ray. She pulled out the silver thread from the glower flame fan and fixed the array. Immediately she opened the feather fan. Like a whirlwind, the glower flame fan turned into a sharp blade, directly shooting towards that piece of core meat lump. Bringing along a majestic, imposing manner, like a tidal wave, it was like a hurricane. The surrounding pieces of meat, which were crashing against the array, had obviously panicked. The force and speed of the collision kept increasing. The strong hurricane pierced directly towards the core meat lump. Yiqing Luo's pupils gradually enlarged. Suddenly, a white shadow, as swift as lightning, dashed into the array. That core meat lump was directly held in its mouth. That's right. It was awesome. That white shadow, with the core meat lump in its mouth, the huge pearl-like ink-black beast eyes, stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking. Shiju, you want to eat it? Yiqing Luo was slightly stunned. She had not expected Shiju to actually rush out of the pet space at this moment. Shiju moaned softly. With that meat lump in its mouth, it tilted its head, as though waiting for Yiqing Luo's permission. Lass, this thing is helpful to Shiju. In her mind, Old Man Song's voice suddenly rang. In the mirage, she had met Old Man Song. Hearing his voice, Yiqing Luo was stunned. Old Man Song, that lump of meat, should be the guardian of the 18 levels of hell, known as Void Ghost. Old Man Song explained. Void Ghost means that it has nothing. Its original body is just this kind of meat lump. It can follow what it sees, changing into any shape. For example, it could stretch out 2 fleshy human arms from the meat lump, which was transformed. Void Ghost's biggest advantage is that it will never disappear from this world. It's continuous automatic recovery. How could it possibly disappear from this world? Destroy that meat lump. It should not have the ability to recover. Yiqing Luo looked at the array, which was almost unable to hold on any longer, as her slender brows creased. If Shiju swallowed the core meat lump, will it cause those pieces of meat to rush toward Shiju's stomach? I won't. Old Man Song's answer was extremely decisive. Once a magical beast swallows this core of meat, it will fuse with the magical beast as one. This automatic recovery ability will also be passed on to the magical beast. Yiqing Luo's eyes shone brightly. Inheritance ability to automatically recover? Once Shiju swallowed the core meat lump, it would be able to inherit the power of automatic recovery. Then in the future, Shiju would become an existence that would never disappear. It's just that this is, after all, the power of inheritance. I'm afraid it won't be as frequent and fast as Solitary Ghost. Shiju eat it. Yiqing Luo looked at Shiju as she smiled. Even if the effects were not as good as Wu Gui, it was fine. To be able to increase Shiju's chances of survival was already very good. Yiqing Luo's words had just ended when the array collapsed. Countless pieces of minced meat rushed toward Shiju in an overwhelming manner. Shiju's tongue swept. But before it could swallow the core meatball, the entire wolf's body was tightly wrapped up into a ball of minced meat that was torn into pieces. Shiju let out an explosive roar. Those minced meat, trying to forcefully congeal into a ball in Shiju's mouth? Yiqing Luo's charming eyes turned cold as she swiftly went forward, releasing her profound qi to split those minced meat from Shiju's body. Chapter 1033. Shiju. Yiqing Luo's expression congealed as her palms ignited with a burst of profound qi, as she grabbed those minced meat bare-handedly. No matter what, she absolutely could not let anything happen to Shiju. She had promised Shiju's mother that she would take good care of Shiju. She had promised Shiju's mother that she would bring Shiju to look for its father. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes revealed a cold glint as she grabbed those minced meat and forcefully tore those minced meat off Shiju's body. She thought that this would tear off another piece of thin film. But when Yiqing Luo's fingers just tore that piece of meat, it directly fell off from Shiju's body. Following that, numerous pieces of minced meat, which were wrapped around Shiju, fell onto the ground. Roar, roar. Shiju raised its head as it let out a long roar. All the minced meat, at this moment, was bursting forth from its powerful aura as it scattered in all directions. Shiju slowly lowered its head as its sparkling beast eyes stared at Yiqing Luo's direction. It swallowed that piece of core meat. The meat's automatic recovery ability had already been transferred to its body. Yiqing Luo heaved a sigh of relief, but she didn't forget to ask Old Man Song. This space is created by the Heaven Profound Pagoda, and this ghost in the 18 levels of hell should also be created. Then, once Shiju leaves the Heaven Profound Pagoda, can this recovery ability still be retained? The space which is created, to put it bluntly, is using the Heaven Profound Pagoda's energy to project their desired location, forming a space within the Heaven Profound Pagoda. The people or things which you meet in the Heaven Profound Pagoda are all real. It was just like the illusions from before. The gates of hell, the illusion created by the 3 corpses, etc., were all real existences. Naturally, this ghostly Wu was also real. The only difference is, in here, all of your injuries, falling into the 18 levels of hell, or being swallowed by the ghost, only your souls are injured. In reality, rest for a few days, and you will be back to normal. Yiqing Luo heard that and nodded her head in understanding. Following that, she kept Shiju back into the pet space, allowing it to merge with the core meat properly. Long Yunjan and the rest walked all the way down, and after about 400 over levels, their footsteps became slower and slower. Suddenly, Long Yunjan stopped in his tracks. His cold eyes swept over the hand that was holding his arm. Let go. Class monitor, since Qing Luo said to believe her, then let's believe her. Xiao Jin grabbed his arm tightly, and although his heart was filled with worries, but he still chose to believe in Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo would not do anything that she was not sure of. Long Yunjan's veil revealed his azure blue eyes, a piercingly cold light, as if covered with frost. Xiao Jin's hand froze, and he subconsciously let go. Seeing Long Yunjan dashing up the stairs without even turning his head back, Xiao Jin felt helpless. He chased after Long Yunjan for a few steps, but he really couldn't catch up. So he stopped and shouted at Long Yunjan's back. Class rep, if you go back now, won't we all have to follow you back? Wouldn't Qing Luo's intention of delaying time for us be wasted? The figure that had already climbed a few floors suddenly stopped in his tracks. Xiao Jin heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, he felt somewhat helpless. Only when Yi Qing Luo's name was mentioned would Long Yunjan listen to it. For the test of strength, all 10 of us in Devil class must pass it before we can obtain the right to participate in the interclass competition. Chapter 1034. This competition not only concerns Devil class's honor, not only concerns our own dignity, not only concerns how we can transform from a trash which everyone despises, to a strong practitioner who is revered by everyone. Xiao Jin's voice became more and more steady. The usual frivolous tone had completely disappeared, leaving behind a solemn and proper tone. This competition, the most important thing for us is for Qing Luo, to let Qing Luo win the bet with Shangguan Lu Li. He had already walked to Long Yunjan's side, as he stretched out his hand and placed it gently on Long Yunjan's shoulder. And Qing Luo, what is it for? His azure blue eyes suddenly flashed with light. His thin lips squirmed for some time, as Long Yunjan's clear voice rang out, she is for Devil class. Yes, for Devil class, for all of us. Xiao Jin gave a light laugh. So, she will not let anything happen to herself. The other 7 stood up straight, as they spoke in unison. Class monitor, Qing Luo will definitely not let anything happen to herself, we believe in her. I'm just not around for a while. And you all miss me so much? A sweet laughter, like the tinkling of a clear spring, resounded in everyone's eardrums. The few faces under the veils revealed an ecstatic expression. One by one, they headed towards the direction of the voice, as they took quick steps forward. Qing Luo. They saw a slender figure, from the dark corner of the staircase, slowly walking over. That green academy uniform, on her body, was like a fairy's wings. While she walked, it was as though a green lotus had bloomed, making one feel intoxicated. That peerless face held a sweet smile. Her long and narrow eyes were slightly raised, as strands of enchanting and demonic charm were outlined. It was Yi Qing Luo. She had really chased up to them and scathed. Qing Luo, are you alright? Earlier that monster. Bei Ming Lu took the lead to go up. As a doctor, she immediately pulled Yi Qing Luo's arm, as she helped to take her pulse. I'm fine. Yi Qing Luo smiled. That monster is already dead. Its automatic recovery ability has been taken over by Shiju. After Bei Ming Lu took her pulse, to ascertain that Yi Qing Luo's body was indeed fine, she heaved a sigh of relief. When Xiao Jin heard Yi Qing Luo's last sentence, he was extremely astonished. What did you say? That meatball's automatic recovery ability was given to Shiju? Then in the future, will Shiju still be able to regenerate itself like that meatball monster, just now when it's chopped into pieces? Hearing everyone's surprised words, the smile on Yi Qing Luo's lips became increasingly shallow. Yes. F*CK. Shijue is going to ascend to the heavens. Next time we go on a mission, let's hide behind Shiju, and let Shiju be the target. Bah! Xiao Jin hadn't finished speaking when he was slapped on the head by Bei Ming Lu. If you dare to use Shiju as a target, Then this old woman will use you as a human experiment. Xiao Jin touched the back of his head that was hurting. I was just joking. Just who did he provoke? Why was Baiming Lulu targeting him today? Alright, let's wait till we leave the heavenly pagoda before making a ruckus. Yiqing Luo looked at the few of them fooling around, and her expression became much more relaxed. The two people who were fooling around responded, and the few of them walked down the stairs. About an hour later, they finally saw the end of the stairs. That was a ray of white light, extremely dazzling. It was so dazzling that they couldn't see what was behind the white light. I'll go in first, be careful. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she released her perception. In the heavenly pagoda, no one knew what would happen in the next instance. No one knew what they would face in the next round. Chapter 1035. Congratulations to the first class to successfully walk out of the heavenly pagoda. Let us remember this elite class. An extremely dignified and righteous voice rang beside her ears. Following that, a deafening round of applause resounded across the horizon. Yiqing Luo, who was blinded by the intense white light, rubbed her brows with her slender fingers before she slowly opened her eyes. In front of her was Master of Justice, who was dressed in a white robe with a badge. Behind her was a heavenly pagoda that towered into the clouds. From the open door of the pagoda, Xiao Jin and the rest walked out one by one. This class is Devil class? Master Gong Jing's expression turned weird when he saw the class badge on Yiqing Luo's chest. The sound of the crowd clapping also gradually faded away, leaving only a few people behind. Finally, it came to an abrupt end. Devil class. That class which was known as Heavenly Academy's Waste? They were actually the first class to walk out of the Heavenly Pagoda? How could this be possible? Numerous high-ranking officials and dignitaries, their own sons and daughters, as well as the elders in the High Profound class and Intermediate Profound class, all had ashen faces. It was extremely awkward. A waste class. And they only brought in 10 students. And they actually snatched ahead of the elite class. Could it be cheating? A class must have at least 10 students who are able to live out of the heavenly pagoda before they can be considered to have passed the test. Yiqing Luo being able to walk out is a given, the others must have long died in the space of the heavenly pagoda. Some of the first batch of students who were eliminated in the first round of the Golden Desert because of their greed stood up immediately. There were intermediate profound class students and low profound class students among them. But no matter which class, at least they were stronger than Devil class. They were eliminated in the first round. So how could Devil class possibly pass all the tests in the Heavenly Pagoda? Dozens of students started to clamor. There were also people who started to count the number of Devil class students who walked out. When Devil class students walked out of the pagoda one by one, those clamoring voices gradually quietened down. 5, 6, 8, 9. When they saw the last person walking out of the pagoda, those students who were counting shut their mouths. 10 students. Among the students in the Devil class, only 10 students entered. Finally, not one more, not one less. Furthermore, he had passed the test of the upper profound pagoda unscathed. How is this possible? The few students fell onto the ground in disbelief as they stared blankly at Yiqing Luo. It's you. You used the divine relic to cheat. You. Pa. A profound chi flew through the air and coincidentally hit the low profound class student's face. Yiqing Luo retracted her palm as she smiled faintly, without the slightest fluster of hitting someone in public. Yiqing Luo, you. Not waiting for that student to flare up, and not waiting for the academy's elder to say anything, Yiqing Luo struck first to gain the initiative, as she slowly squinted her charming eyes, as a trace of sly and cunning smile appeared in her eyes. Before participating in the test of strength, the dean had specifically instructed me that in order to ensure the fairness of the test of strength and the interclass competition, I cannot use the power of the divine dragon, holy beast, or divine weapon. Yiqing Luo's voice was light and sweet-sounding. However, each and every word was filled with an inviolable boldness. Chapter 1036. Questioning the director's prestige? That student was scared out of his wits as he sat down on the ground, staring blankly at Yiqing Luo's direction, forgetting to refute. Moreover, in the heavenly pagoda, there are 4 masters inspecting the entire process, and there is also a master of justice probing at any time. I cheated? So, what you're implying is that the 4 masters and justice master are helping the devil class to cheat. One after another, the cauldron smashed directly onto that student's head. That student was immediately smashed until he was dizzy and fainted from fright. Yiqing Luo's words also made those who were full of doubts shut their mouths. From the beginning to the end, the 4 masters and master of justice, as well as the director, did not accuse Yiqing Luo at all. It was obvious that the devil class did not cheat in the heavenly pagoda, without using the power of the divine weapon, without borrowing the power of the divine dragon and sacred beast. Yiqing Luo alone, how could she successfully pass the ability test with the other 9 wastes? Then that Yiqing Luo, how strong was she? Cough, cough, cough. Master of Justice coughed a few times. It was wrong of Yiqing Luo to hit someone in public. But he did it for the director's prestige, to maintain the fairness of the academy. This slap really could not be blamed on Yiqing Luo. Master of Justice raised his face with a smile. Congratulations to the devil class for passing the ability test, and can participate in the Heavenly Academy's annual interclass competition. I hope the devil class can obtain a good result in the competition. Yiqing Luo smiled in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, as she bowed to Master of Justice. Thank you for your praise. Borrowing Master's auspicious words, devil class will definitely work hard in the interclass competition to win glory for the class and the academy. After a few exchanges of greetings, Master of Justice let Yiqing Luo and the rest go back to rest first. After all, the test in the heavenly pagoda would cause a strong impact on the students' soul and willpower. They needed to rest for a day or 2 before they could recover to normal. Yiqing Luo led the 9 of them, and after bowing to everyone she retreated, as if she didn't care about the sensation she had caused in everyone's hearts. On the high platform, Yun Duan stroked his white beard and pursed his lips meaningfully. Student Ye's innate talent. It's a pity to leave her in the devil class. Never thought she could really create a miracle. The elders at the side immediately nodded in agreement. Devil class being the first to pass the test was indeed inconceivable. The test in the heavenly pagoda was designed by the elders' division, the teachers' division, and the headmaster himself. They knew better than anyone how difficult it was. Principal, do you think student Yi should? Yun Duan looked at the principal, wanting to discuss with him, only to see the dean staring at the direction where the devil class had disappeared in a daze. His usual dignified face faintly flashed a hint of ruthlessness. Ruthless? Yun Duan furrowed his eyebrows, wanting to take a closer look, but the dean had already glanced at him. Student Yi has already rejected my request. Cloud was startled. Refused to enter the class of gods? Could it be that the news of the 2 cold-faced instructors jointly allowing Yiqing Luo to enter the class of gods was actually true? It was not that the dean did not agree. Or was it Yiqing Luo who refused to enter the class of gods? It doesn't matter. No matter which class you are in, student Yi is still a student of the Heavenly Academy. The dean waved his hand and looked at Master Mo who was beside him. Chapter 1037. Mo Xian, who was seated at the main seat, leaned back on the soft chair with an extremely lazy expression. After hearing the director's words, he shot a glance at the director with an elegant expression. Devil class's achievements are all due to the student's ability. It has nothing to do with me. Yes. The director agreed with a flattering smile, obviously treating Mo Xian's words as an excuse. Devil class's students, just based on Yiqing Luo alone, could bring along 9 wastes to pass the Heavenly Pagoda's ability assessment. The director would rather believe that all these were due to Mo Xian's transformation of those wastes in the past few months. Mo Xian was too lazy to explain. He lifted his eyelids lazily as his vision was fixed on the figure, who had already disappeared from the heavenly square. His eyes were slightly deep. Senior Mo, let's take a look at the second class to successfully walk out of the heavenly pagoda. The director hadn't finished his words. Suddenly, he felt a cold breeze brushing past his cheeks. His white robe fluttered in the wind. Like a deity, he flashed past the director's eyes. Senior Mo. The director hurriedly stood up and wanted to chase after him, but he saw that white figure, in a blink of an eye, had already disappeared in front of him. Senior Mo. The director was astonished, puzzled about Senior Mo's departure. But he saw many gazes, because he had stood up, all looked over. He then put on a gentle smile and sat back down. His white brows creased slightly as his vision looked towards the empty seat. There was no Senior Mo's figure. Senior Emohi. What was the reason for him to leave in such a hurry? After coming out of the heavenly pagoda, the 10 of their souls had more or less suffered some impact. Especially the second round of the 3 corpses test, the illusion of greed, anger, and obsession. It was the most impactful to the soul. After returning to Devil class, there was no extra energy to discuss with the other students about the things in the heavenly pagoda. One by one, they dispersed and went back to rest. After Yiqing Luo showed the few students, she gave each of them a stabilizing pill and returned to the dormitory with Mo Yuing. In the dormitory, there were only the 2 of them. It was extremely quiet. Yiqing Luo entered her own room and directly fell onto the bed. This fall, before she hit the bed, her petite body fell into a broad and warm embrace. A soothing sandalwood fragrance wafted into his nostrils. Yiqing Luo closed her eyes and attached her body and mind onto the man. Her tone was gentle. Why are you here? Wasn't he still watching the test of strength at the head seat of the heavenly plaza just now? If you're not here, what's the point of me staying? Mo Xian hugged the young lady in his arms tightly. His long eyelashes drooped as he gazed at her delicate little face. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched as her little face rubbed against his chest. Following that, she opened her eyes and stared deeply at Mo Xian's face. Her slender little hand caressed his contours. I missed you. Miss him. Ever since she came out of the illusion, she had been thinking about him. Especially at that moment, her mind was filled with this man. The illusion told her. How important was this man to her? Her greed was only for the sake of being qualified to stand by his side. Her resentment was only because she wanted to possess everything he had. She wanted him to belong to her for all eternity. Her obsession was only to stay with him, to have a family that belonged to them, to have a child that belonged to them. Yiqing Luo slowly tiptoed, as her arms encircled his neck, and her lips pressed against his lips. Chapter 1038. Mo Xian squinted his eyes as he stared deeply at the young lady's flushed face. She rarely relied on him so actively. What had she met in the ability assessment? Mo Xian's hand, which was around her slender waist, moved upwards and held onto the back of her head as he turned from guest to host, deepening the kiss. Usually when he kissed in such an overbearing manner, Yiqing Luo would more or less struggle. But this time round, Yiqing Luo cooperated as her soft tongue probed into his mouth. Yiqing Luo's initiative made Mo Xian lose his rationality. His eyes gradually deepened as a ball of passion flared up from the bottom of his eyes. He intensified the kiss. In the end, Yiqing Luo could only hang on Mo Xian's body softly, leaving an ambiguous low moan and clear stream. Separated by a thin robe, Mo Xian's large palm instinctively moved along the soft petite body. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo frantically stretched out her hand as she pressed on his large palm. This made her suddenly recall the things that Mo Xian had done to her in the dreamland, when she was infatuated with him. With his beloved in his arms, he lowered his eyes to take a look. The young lady's eyes were like silk and her face was like a peach blossom, with a moist luster. Her red and swollen lips seemed to be emitting a silent seduction. As long as it was a man, upon seeing this amorous scene, how could he possibly stop? Mo Xian was a normal man, especially when Yiqing Luo took the initiative to kiss him and confessed without any concealment. At this moment, Demo Xian had already descended into madness as he pressed Yiqing Luo onto the bed behind him. Ah Xian! Yiqing Luo was in a daze from the kiss, but her consciousness was still clear. Her hands weakly pushed against Demo Xian's chest. 3,000 strands of hair had already scattered under the man's slender fingers as it scattered onto the bed. He leaned forward as his elbows were propped on the side of her body. His deep and blurry peach blossom eyes seemed to be able to captivate her soul as he looked at her affectionately. The kiss landed on her lips once again. This kiss was overbearing and overbearing, as though he was going to swallow her whole into his stomach. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo's lashes were wet as her petite body instinctively twisted due to his teasing. Her little hand, which was pushing Demo Xian's chest, turned into a tight grip on his clothes. Demo Xian pecked at her swollen red lips that were stained with crystals. She moved slightly, and her long legs brushed against his legs from time to time. She panted lightly, her warm breath splashing on his face. Demo Xian's body tensed up, his breathing erratic and his eyes dark and gloomy. He stared at her bashfully. Her long hair was drenched in sweat and scattered over her shoulders. A few more strands stuck to her face. That soft and delicate body would rub against his from time to time. Demo Xian only felt a scorching sensation surging towards his lower abdomen. Demo Xian wasn't unfamiliar with this feeling. Every single time he kissed Yiqing Luo, he would have this feeling. Yiqing Luo apparently felt it too. She blushed and struggled to break free from his grip. Ah Xian, you can't do it here, she said. Ah Xian. She admitted that just one kiss from Demo Xian was enough to make her feel uncomfortable all over. They loved each other. Naturally, he also wanted to have her. But, at this moment, in a place like the academy, she didn't know how many people from the dark forces were around, nor how many of the director's spies were there. Yiqing Luo still had a sliver of rationality left, and when Demo Xian's fingers undid her belt, she swiftly grabbed his arm. This man, why was his mind filled with such things? Chapter 1039. Demo Xian's eyes were burning with desire as he stared at the blushing young lady below him. Lil Luo, you really don't mean what you say. He stretched out his slender fingers and caressed her lips. His slightly callous fingertips caressed her lips, causing Yiqing Luo's petite body to tremble slightly. He leaned close to her ear as his thin lips brushed past her earlobe as he gave a low chuckle. If I really stop, can you bear to? Yiqing Luo's cheeks turned even redder as she shyly shifted her gaze away. I can bear to quickly get off. Really bear to? Demo Xian squinted his long peach blossom eyes as that finger which was caressing her pink lips slowly moved downwards. I need to confirm if you're lying. His gaze swept across the softness of her chest, across her flat stomach and straight down. Yiqing Luo's trembling became more and more intense as she wanted to struggle and raise her fist to pound on his chest. When his fingertips touched something, the desire in his eyes grew even more intense. He half propped himself up as he slowly retracted his hand as his eyes were filled with an evil charm. Still want to quibble? Yiqing Luo was embarrassed as she bit her lower lip tightly as her eyelashes were already wet. This man, must he make her so embarrassed that she couldn't see anyone before he was willing to stop? How could he touch that place of hers? Lil Luo, this is your punishment for quibbling. His elbow relaxed as his burning hot chest pressed against her petite body. Yiqing Luo panicked as her watery eyes stared at him pitifully. Ah Xian, let go of me. Can you let go of me first? The man's body became even more tensed. His body was pressed against hers. He leaned close to her ear as he laughed softly. Lil Luo, let me tell you, this is the consequence of a woman seducing a man. He leaned forward and was about to. Suddenly, Yiqing Luo suddenly arched her body as she took the initiative to kiss his lips. Following that, she exerted force and pressed Demo Xian down. Demo Xian, who was preparing to take action, had eyes filled with desire as he totally didn't notice. He was directly pressed under Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's long legs stretched out and pressed against his abdomen as she stretched out her hand to support his chest. Ah Xian Yu. I didn't expect Lil Luo to be so passionate. Dmo Xian narrowed his eyes, but didn't forcefully push her down again. He spread his arms. His long and charming peach blossom eyes flowed with an intoxicating light. He stuck out his tongue seductively and licked his thin lips, as if he wanted more of her taste. Since that is the case, I will reluctantly allow Lil Luo to be on top. However, can Lil Luo really do it? Yiqing Luo stared at him. About the matters between the upper and lower levels. We can talk about it in the future. We can't talk about it in the academy. She couldn't stop this man from going crazy. He could only forcefully suppress him. Only then could he regain his rationality. You want me to stop? Dmo Xian raised his eyebrows. Due to his endurance, his forehead was dripping with perspiration, messing up his black hair. Some of that black hair fell on his face like a cloud of smoke. She sprinkled a handful of it on the bed, adding a suffocating charm to this man of peerless elegance. Yiqing Luo knew how hard he was enduring as she bent over and kissed his thin lips, echoing his thoughts. There are too many spies in the academy, and those students will definitely return to the dormitory to rest after they pass the round. You don't want to be disturbed in the middle, right? Dmo Xian's handsome face twitched as his brows creased. We still have a very, very long time to be together, so there's no hurry, right? Yiqing Luo caressed his face as she persuaded him in a gentle voice. Dmo Xian remained silent for a moment as he fixed his gaze on her, trying to please him. Chapter 1040. Yiqing Luo instantly blushed. This man was really Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo helplessly closed his hand, which was clasping her lower jaw. Don't you feel that this ability test is a little strange? Dmo Xian had been watching from the side. He should have heard the master's description of the test in the heavenly pagoda. She could tell that there was something wrong with this ability test. Dmo Xian should have sensed it. Indeed, after mentioning the ability test, Dmo Xian's eyes, which were filled with anger, gradually turned dark and gloomy. He frowned slightly and slowly retracted his hand from Yiqing Luo's hand. With a flip, he flipped down from Yiqing Luo's body and laid sideways. Following that, his long arm stretched out and wrapped around Yiqing Luo's body, pulling her into his embrace tightly. A hand, coincidentally, landed somewhere in front of her chest. Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled as she raised her hand to slap his unruly hand. The man intentionally squeezed his palm. Why? You want me to stop? Aren't you going to give me some benefits? Yiqing Luo's face flushed red. The hand which was holding onto his wrist slid down, but she didn't stop him or ask for any benefits. She only muttered softly, "Don't move." Dmo Xian's narrow long eyes dimmed slightly as his lips curled meaningfully. "Don't worry. I will only touch and not move." These words sounded a little wrong. Why did she feel that? Was it because of some color? Had she been led astray by Dmo Xian? Yiqing Luo shook her head, trying to get rid of the wild thoughts in her mind. She heard the man's low, hoarse voice. You should have sensed it in the heavenly pagoda. This test is not the so-called ability test, but another kind of test. Yiqing Luo collected those messy thoughts in her eyes and nodded. Yes, it is a test of the student's soul. It involved the soul, and that was the King of Darkness from the Dark Forces. The director was working with the Dark Forces, which meant to say, this ability test was in fact to help the King of Darkness to select a pure profound cultivator's soul as a sacrifice. Or perhaps, the interclass competition was suddenly brought forward by 5 months. It caused a huge sensation in Nirvana realm. This was also what the King of Darkness wanted. I don't understand. Why did the Dark Forces suddenly need souls so urgently? Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased as she leaned into Dmo Xian's arms, raising her head to look at him. Moreover, they urgently need pure and clean souls. Dmo Xian added. That was right. He desperately needed a pure and clean soul. Could it be that something happened to the King of Darkness? Right now this was the only explanation. The King of Darkness had been chased out of the Nirvana realm hundreds of years ago. He had endured for hundreds of years. It was impossible for him not to be willing to wait for a few short years. Through the heavenly Dean, the King of Darkness must have gathered thousands of souls. He was not in a hurry to revive immediately, unless the King of Darkness was in trouble. That was why he continued to sense the pure soul of a profound practitioner, to replenish his dark energy, and to undo the seal on his body ahead of time. If that was the case, those students who had passed the 3 tests of the Upper Profound Pagoda, or the 3 Corpses Illusory Realm test in the second test, would be able to cleanse themselves of their greed, anger, and obsession. I'm afraid it's going to be dangerous. They would become the targets of the dark forces. Chapter 1041. His 5 slender fingers subconsciously clenched. It felt so good that he couldn't bear to part with it. Yiqing Luo felt as if she got an electric shock. She raised her fist and hammered him. We're talking about serious matters. Can you stop fooling around? Driving off at the slightest disagreement. She wasn't able to react in time. Dmo Xian's body leaned slightly as he leaned closer to her, and immediately lowered his head as he planted a kiss on her lips. Aren't I talking about serious matters with you? Yiqing Luo patted the back of his hand. Take your hand away. Dmo Xian raised his brows. A mischievous glint flashed past his eyes. Immediately, his fingers became more and more wanton. Yiqing Luo couldn't struggle at all. She could only blush and hold his hand tightly, not letting him move. Dmo Xian's eyes were filled with smiles. He really loved her bashful look. This kind of expression that only fell for him. Yiqing Luo's face was flushed red, and she was about to get angry. Dmo Xian then restrained himself and pretended to be serious as he continued. Once the news of the dark forces infiltrating Nirvana realm is spread to the upper realm, the upper realm will definitely send someone to carry out the second expulsion. Second expulsion? Yiqing Luo's thoughts were instantly diverted. She looked up and frowned doubtfully. Will the people from the upper realm know about this? Nirvana realm was also known as the mortal realm. As for the upper realm, it was a realm that spanned a distance of 108,000 miles. It was the upper realm that was far above the upper realm. How could the upper realm know about the news of the mortal realm? Every realm in the upper realm will send 1 to 10 peace messengers to hide their identity and live in the next realm. This is also a way to keep each other in check and maintain peace. Dmo Xian explained. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up when she heard that. That means there are people from the upper realm in our Nirvana realm? The peace messengers of Nirvana realm are from the earth realm. Dmo Xian's tone was indifferent. His tone and expression made it seem like the people from the earth realm were just trash to him. People from the earth realm? To Yiqing Luo, this was an exciting thing. After all, if a person who was called trash in the earth domain came to the Nirvana realm, that person would be called a high-level profounder. It was precisely because the people of each plane were not on the same level in terms of ability, talent, and strength. That was why the ambassadors of peace were needed to keep each other in check. This was the only way to prevent people from other planes from going to a lower plane and stirring up trouble. If the people from the upper realm intervene, the dark forces without the King of Darkness will not be able to do anything. Yiqing Luo pondered for a moment. Moreover, once the matter regarding the King of Darkness is known by the people from the upper realm, in order to prevent future troubles, the people from the upper realm will definitely think of a way to eliminate all future troubles. Dmo Xian nodded with a smile. Lil Luo is indeed smart. Just a few words and you can already deduce most of it. It was rare to be praised by Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo's face blushed slightly as she lowered her eyelids and snuggled into his arms. So, because of me, the news of the dark forces has already spread throughout the Nirvana realm. The King of Darkness wants to remove the seal as soon as possible, so that he can take over the Nirvana realm as soon as possible. During the confrontation with the patriarch of the Yuchi family, she had thrown out the dark forces and had already infiltrated into the Nirvana realm. Furthermore, she had made use of the dark forces' forbidden arts to control quite a number of people. In the Nirvana realm, there were people who could be called out by their names. Chapter 1042. After that, under the deliberate embellishment of the 3,000 peach blossoms, numerous Nirvana Realm's younger generation now all knew about the viciousness of the dark forces. They also knew about the battle between the dark forces and Nirvana Realm, which cultivator would allow their territories to be occupied by others. If they were willing to be occupied, now Nirvana Realm would not be divided into four. Yiqing Luo had grasped these people's mentality, so she specially took the opportunity of that battle to spread the news. During the interclass competition, you'd better be careful. The dark force's final target is you. Dmo Xian's hand finally stopped teasing her. If he continued to tease her, in the end, the one who would feel uncomfortable would be himself. He gently caressed Yiqing Luo's hair as his voice was gentle. Lil Luo leave the dark forces matters to me and the Imperial Palace to settle. You just need to protect yourself, understand? But the dark forces were not something that she could avoid even if she wanted to. Right from the start, the dark forces' target was her. Even if she didn't initiate contact with the dark forces, the dark forces would definitely revolve around her. I will be by your side. Dmo Xian's lips curled up as his fingertips gently rubbed her eyes. You should be tired after the Heavenly Pagoda assessment. Have a good rest. Yiqing Luo was just about to reply, but the drowsiness made it hard for her to resist. Her long eyelashes fluttered as she fell into a deep sleep. Dmo Xian gazed deeply at the sleeping person in his arms as his dense long lashes drooped slightly. He slowly retracted his hand, which was used as a pillow, as he quietly left the bed. His gaze congealed outside the window. Wind, what's the matter? Yes. If it wasn't for the fact that he sensed Wind was outside the window, looking for him urgently, how could Dmo Xian possibly stop being intimate with Yiqing Luo because of the dark forces? Wind had always been sensible. If it wasn't an urgent matter, he would definitely not do so. As expected, Dmo Xian's words had just ended when a black shadow flashed past. A black-robed young man with a sword by his waist knelt in front of Dmo Xian. Overlord, the Imperial Palace has an express secret letter to report. Dmo Xian nodded slightly. He glanced at the person who was sleeping soundly on the bed. His deep eyes darkened as he said indifferently, "Take good care of her." Wind cupped his fists, understood. By the time Yiqing Luo woke up, it was already the next morning. Outside the dormitory, there were several female students conversing loudly. Lu Xiaoyu's anger and Mo Yuying's emotionless voice could be heard. Trash class is trash, Yudon is trash and you don't have the ability. A trashy class will always be a trashy class. You don't even have the ability to participate in the interclass competition. This voice was rather familiar. Immediately after, another voice could be heard. Mo Yuying, look at your cowardly look. I can easily push you down with one finger. Perhaps that person really went to push Mo Yuying. Then, Lu Xiaoyu's delicate voice rang out. Let's see who dares to move. Just a few days ago he was still fawning over Qing Luo, and today he wanted to bully Qing Luo's classmate. If you dare to make a move, I will go to the faculty council and complain. Go ahead. The vice president is here. If you have the ability, go ahead. That female student snorted, full of disdain. Chapter 1043. Enough. Lu Shuiyu's voice was icy cold. Making a ruckus in the dormitory, what a scandal. Those few female students humped softly and kept their mouths shut. Yiqing Luo finally understood. These few people, weren't they those students who came to the dormitory during the holidays to please her? So quickly, they were bought over by Lu Shuiyu again? Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh. She wondered what was the meaning of these rich young ladies forming cliques all day long. As if they were able to hug someone's thigh, they would be able to bully others. Yiqing Luo only heard a few sentences and roughly guessed the situation outside. Probably because of the Heavenly Pagoda's ability assessment. As a high-profound class student, Lu Shuiyu naturally felt embarrassed. These female students, once again hugged Lu Shuiyu's thigh, naturally wanted to stand up for their eldest sister. So they came to Yiqing Luo's dormitory and found Mo Yuing, who stayed in the same dormitory as Yiqing Luo, who was also a devil class student, to vent their anger. When Lu Xiaoyu saw this, she would definitely be infuriated and lend a helping hand, which resulted in the current situation. In the dormitory hall, Lu Shuiyu sat elegantly on the wooden chair, her fingers hooked around the teacup as she took a sip. Student Lu Xiaoyu, please remember that this is the dormitory. This is the academy, not a place for a spoilt child like you to throw a tantrum. You. Lu Xiaoyu's face flushed red as she pointed at Lu Shuiyu furiously. That's right. So what if I'm spoilt by my parents? At least I live honestly. I know what friendship is, and how to protect my friends. Speaking of this, Lu Xiaoyu's lips curled upwards, revealing a sneer of ridicule. Right, we share the same surname Lu, but our statuses are different. You're the noble eldest Miss Lu. I'm just an ordinary, well-off Lu family's youngest daughter, but at least I have my father. My mother dotes on me, loves you. You, other than that pitiful arrogance, what else do you have? Lu Xiaoyu's words were powerful and resonant. The expression on her face was filled with righteousness. Lu Shuiyu's face turned green and white. Seeing the change in Lu Shuiyu's expression, the female students behind her immediately stepped forward and pushed Lu Xiaoyu. How dare you insult the vice president? This young lady will teach you a lesson on behalf of the vice president. With that, she raised her hand and slapped Lu Xiaoyu's face. However, this slap did not have the time to land. However, a small pink figure rushed over. His small head happened to bump into the female student's abdomen. The female student felt an excruciating pain, as if her internal organs had been shattered. She collapsed to the ground, unconscious. Mo Yuing. The other 4 female students stared at Mo Yuing in disbelief. This trash dared to use his head to talk back to them. A female student's expression instantly turned ferocious. She had long disliked Mo Yuying's small stature. She looked small and delicate, like an 11 or 12-year-old little girl. But she purposely put on a stupid expression. She had seduced quite a few students in the academy, and they were all interested in Mo Yuing. This Mo Yuing, who had always been bullied, never retaliated when hit, never retaliated when scolded. She dared to use her head to hurt their people. Mo Yuing, how dare you hit a student in front of the vice president? Chapter 1044. 4 female students surrounded Mo Yuing with a sinister expression. Their faces were filled with disdain, as though they were trying to strangle an ant. How dare you? I'm going to tell the director. Lu Xiaoyu frantically pulled Mo Yuing over and stood in front of her. She couldn't beat these few female students, but she absolutely could not let Mo Yuing get hurt. Mo Yuing was Yiqing Luo's classmate and had saved her earlier. She had to protect Mo Yuing. Beat the both of them together. A female student shouted, and got the support of the other 3 female students. All of them started to attack Lu Xiaoyu's back mercilessly. Ah! A shrill scream was heard. Then a petite figure flew out into the sky. It crashed into Lu Shuiyu's room door, and gave out a heavy crash. Immediately it rolled onto the ground and spat out a big mouthful of blood. The direction it rolled towards was coincidentally Lu Shuiyu's direction. This mouthful of blood coincidentally sprayed onto Lu Shuiyu's skirt, splattering a patch of bright red. High profound class and intermediate profound class students can't afford to lose. A clear and melodious laughter was heard, like pearls falling onto a plate. Yiqing Luo's room door was opened, and Yiqing Luo was dressed in a simple and loose green uniform, as she leaned against the door lazily. Her slender fingers were playing with a strand of hair on her shoulder. Her stunning face was filled with ridicule. I'm so sorry, devil class is so lucky, just happened to have 10 people. And snatched your first place. Qing Luo. Lu Xiaoyu's face was filled with joy, as she immediately pulled Mo Yuing and dashed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. As long as Yiqing Luo appeared, even if Lu Shuiyu personally made a move, she would not be able to gain any advantage. After dashing to Yiqing Luo's side, Lu Xiaoyu then made a face at Lu Shuiyu's direction. Lu Shuiyu narrowed her cold eyes and glanced at the blood stains on her skirt. She raised her leg without hesitation and kicked the female student who was beside her leg away. She immediately stood up and looked at Yiqing Luo coldly. Can't afford to lose? Yiqing Luo raised her brows. Could it be that the vice president can afford to lose? Yiqing Luo gave a light laugh as she crossed her arms over her chest and walked towards her languidly. I'm so sorry. Devil class got the first place in the ability assessment, so it's like the boat rises with the tide, and you're so complacent. Why, you're not convinced? Lu Shuiyu's face darkened. He opened his mouth and was about to speak when he was interrupted by Yiqing Luo. Even if the devil class doesn't have any abilities, they are still number 1 in the ability assessment. Even if they don't have the right to participate in the interclass competition, they still have the right to be number 1 in the ability assessment and participate in the interclass competition. Why, you're not convinced? My devil class, just because we got the first place, we use our connections to bully others. What about it? You're not convinced? Lu Shuiyu was rendered speechless by the 3 consecutive, I'm not convinced. Following that, Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose as her eyes remained calm. If you're not convinced, then hold it in. Yiqing Luo, you're going too far. The female student who was standing beside Lu Shuiyu stared at Yiqing Luo in fear. As soon as he said those words, he shrank back as if he had seen a ghost. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about that female student at all. Her charming eyes gazed at Lu Shuiyu without blinking, waiting for her response. Lu Shuiyu narrowed her cold eyes as her aloof expression turned frosty. After some time, she shifted her gaze away and left the dormitory without even turning back. In the dormitory hall, 3 female students laid on the ground and had been forgotten. Lu Shuiyu didn't have the time to bother about them. Chapter 1045. Once Qing Luo appears, who dares to challenge her? Lu Xiaoyu smiled mischievously and stretched out her hand to hold Yiqing Luo's arm. Let's see how arrogant those people are going to be. Yiqing Luo poked her forehead. The most arrogant one is you. Lu Xiaoyu stuck out her tongue and rubbed her little face on Yiqing Luo's shoulder. I'm not arrogant. This is called bravery. In order to protect the person I want to protect. Incomparably brave. Yiqing Luo was amused. Mo Yuing, who was standing behind them, stared at the 2 people who were laughing. His empty eyes blinked, as if he didn't understand why they were smiling so happily. After being frozen for some time, when Yiqing Luo's smiling gaze met hers, Mo Yuing made a. It was an action that shocked everyone present. She held on to Yiqing Luo's arm expressionlessly, learning from Lu Xiaoyu's action, leaning her head on Yiqing Luo's body. His little face rubbed against Yiqing Luo's arm. After rubbing for some time, she took another look at the dazed Lu Xiaoyu and saw that her head was placed on Yiqing Luo's shoulder. Mo Yuing stretched out both her hands towards Yiqing Luo as she jumped around with all her might, trying to reach Yiqing Luo's shoulders. Yiqing Luo burst into laughter as she slowly squatted down and wrapped her arms around Mo Ying's petite body. Shadow, come, let sister hug you. Mo Ying's paralyzed face stared at Yiqing Luo for some time. His gaze immediately fell onto Yiqing Luo's shoulder. Stretching out her arm, she looped it around Yiqing Luo's neck and placed her face on Yiqing Luo's shoulder. Yueying also knows how to act coquettishly. Lu Xiaoyu seemed to have discovered a new continent as her eyes were filled with amazement. I thought that Yueying would only be like a wooden person, not easy to get along with. I didn't expect that. Yueying is so cute. Mo Yueying ignored her screams, only quietly burying it on Yiqing Luo's shoulder. His face was still expressionless, but his pair of lifeless eyes was gradually covered with a faint expression. Yiqing Luo was really warm. It made her feel human warmth. Devil class. After passing the strength test yesterday, the souls of the students had been impacted. One by one they dispersed. As for Qiao Jin and Long Yunjian, one went to the class committee room, and the other went to the spiritual Qi treasured land. Both of them were unable to calm down. He didn't show his face for an entire day. In the class committee room, Qiao Jin placed his feet on the wooden table and slumped into his chair. A pair of dark and gloomy eyes looked ahead without any focus. No one knew what he was thinking. Her long eyelashes couldn't hide the green at the corner of her eyes. It seemed like he hadn't slept all night. Indeed, he had not slept the entire night. As long as he closed his eyes, the image of a smiling face would appear in front of him. That smile was affectionate and sweet. Word by word, she called him gently, "Ah, Jean." It was Yan Xiaoyi. His mind was filled with Yan Xiaoyi's smiling face. The Yan Xiaoyi in the illusion, the Yan Xiaoyi who had deep feelings for him. It was like a scene that kept replaying in his mind. Ever since he returned to devil class, Xiao Jin had been sitting here, recalling everything that had happened in the dreamland. In his illusion, the first two were very normal. But in the infatuation of the third stage, he saw Yan Xiaoyi. In the illusion, they were husband and wife. In the illusion, she gave him an enchanting smile, bewitching all living beings. In the illusion, they almost became one. He almost got corroded by the illusion and wanted to stay in the illusion, to spend the rest of his life with Yan Xiaoyi. The illusion of infatuation. Why was it Yan Xiaoyi? Could it be that he towards Yan Xiaoyi? Chapter 1046. Her voice stopped abruptly when she saw the people in the class committee room. She turned around and walked away as though she didn't see Xiao Jin. This voice startled Xiao Jin. He looked up only to see her turn and leave. His brows furrowed, his body instinctively moving forward to grab her wrist. "Yan Xiaoyi, stop right there. Let go." Yan Xiaoyi pursed her red lips and flung his hand away. She didn't turn around to look at him. Xiao Jin held onto her shoulders forcefully and straightened her. "Running when you see me? Are you so afraid of me?" Yan Xiaoyi's face was sullen. She bit her red lips and was obviously angered by his words. "I'm afraid of you? Xiao Jin, don't you have any shame? Let go of me." Xiao Jin's jade-like eyes narrowed. There was an unfathomable depth in his eyes. He stared at the imprisoned Yan Xiaoyi, looking at her pretty face which was flushed with a faint blush due to sullen anger. Something soft seemed to have hit a certain spot in his heart. The empty spot in his heart seemed to have been filled up by something. This was the feeling he wanted. In the illusion, he was able to recognize the illusion, and it was also because this feeling was missing between him and Yan Xiaoyi. "Xiao Jin, what do you want? You don't want to see me. So let's go our separate ways and not disturb each other. What else do you want?" Yan Xiaoyi narrowed her eyes. She couldn't control the feelings that overflowed from the bottom of her heart when she touched him. She wanted to struggle, but Xiao Jin held her hands down after hearing her words. The door of the class committee room was slammed shut with a bang. Yan Xiaoyi's back was pressed against the wooden door. Xiao Jin held her arms high up and pressed her against the wall with one hand. Women were naturally weaker than men in terms of strength, not to mention a man who was stronger than her. Yan Xiaoyi couldn't struggle at all. Instead, she was easily restrained by Xiao Jin. "I don't want to see you." Xiao Jin narrowed his eyes and stared fixedly at the blushing young lady. He didn't know why, but a raging fire surged in his chest. He didn't want to hear any words like, "I don't want to see him," or "go our separate ways" from Yan Xiaoyi's mouth. That rage burned Xiao Jin's rationality. At this moment, Xiao Jin didn't even know what he was doing. He only followed his own heart, the other hand tightly wrapped around Yan Xiaoyi's waist. His slender fingers pinched her waist fiercely. Xiao Jin purposely moved closer to Yan Xiaoyi's ear when he said "N." She gently exhaled a warm breath. Yan Xiaoyi's whole body trembled, her face blushing. She was embarrassed, but more so, she was angered by him. "And me, I also don't want to see." "Oh." A kiss strong and domineering. It landed heavily on Yan Xiaoyi's red lips. Compared to the forceful kiss last time without any technique, this time, Xiao Jin clearly grasped the trick. After kissing her red lips, he began to nibble on them, teasing her. He didn't give Yan Xiaoyi any chance to defend herself. A strong masculine scent filled her nostrils. Yan Xiaoyi didn't have the strength to resist at all. Her entire body went limp in Xiao Jin's arms. She could barely breathe. This bastard, what did he want? Why did he suddenly kiss her? "Xiaoyi, He stopped kissing her lips. His silver-haired lips slowly moved to her ears. His soft call was low and sexy. Yin Xiaoyi's delicate body instinctively trembled. Because of his deliberate exhalation, tiny goosebumps appeared on his pink skin. Chapter 1047. Your body's reaction tells me that your heart and your mouth are not the same. Xiao Jin's head rested on her shoulder. As he breathed in Yin Xiaoyi's cold fragrance, the feeling of his heart being filled grew stronger. He couldn't help but pull the corners of his lips, revealing a smile that even he himself didn't notice. Yin Xiaoyi's cheeks instantly turned red. Before he could react, she struggled to free her hands, raised her palms, and threw a slap towards his face. Utterly shameless, as though he had guessed her next move. Coincidentally, Xiao Jin caught her slap and pressed it against the wooden door again. This is the first day you met me, and now you know that I'm shameless. Yin Xiaoyi was furious. Xiao Jin pursed his thin lips and stared at her slightly red cheeks. After a long while he retracted his hands. He only gently wrapped his arms around her waist, his head still buried in her neck. Xiaoyi, don't say anything that will make me angry. Yin Xiaoyi's body stiffened. She couldn't get used to Xiao Jin's inexplicable gentleness and intimacy. It seemed, ever since Tao Tao had appeared, they could no longer get along like they used to, especially after he forcefully kissed her and took away her first kiss. The atmosphere between them became increasingly strange. They shouldn't be like this. They were partners who cooperated with each other, brothers who supported each other. If they were tainted with feelings between them, it wouldn't be that pure anymore. Feelings she really didn't want to be tainted, didn't want to touch them, especially when the other party was Xiao Jin. The person he liked wasn't her. Yin Xiaoyi had her own pride and dignity. If Xiao Jin didn't love her, she wouldn't take the initiative to express her feelings. She wouldn't give Xiao Jin any chance to hurt her, wouldn't wait for her to confess her true feelings, and then watch him be with another woman, and leave her alone to feel sad. Yin Xiaoyi's expression gradually turned cold. Her delicate face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost. She looked at the man on top of her, her voice cold. Xiao Jin, if you don't want me to make you angry, then let me go. I didn't come here to look for you. If Tong Ziqing hadn't told her that Long Yunzhan was waiting for her in the class committee room, saying that he had something to discuss with her regarding the ability test, it was impossible for her to come here. He did not expect to enter the class committee room. There was only Xiao Jin here. Long Yunzhan wasn't here at all. She realized that she had been fooled by Tong Ziqing. She wanted to leave, but Xiao Jin didn't let her. He was clearly the one who had been avoiding her. You're not looking for me? Looking for the class leader? Xiao Jin sneered, and the hand that was wrapped around her waist suddenly tightened. So, seeing that the class monitor isn't here, you're disappointed. He clearly knew that the relationship between Yin Xiaoyi and Long Yunzhan was that of companions and brothers. However, the words slipped out of his mouth on their own. He couldn't stop her. He could only use his jade-like eyes to stare deeply at her expression. He wanted to see through her eyes and see what she was thinking. As expected, Yin Xiaoyi's expression was sullen. The petite body nestled in his arms was also trembling with anger. Xiao Jin, get lost. Yin Xiaoyi bellowed. How could he insult her like this? It doesn't matter if you don't like her. Why did he use such words to belittle her feelings? In his eyes, were her feelings that cheap? As long as it was a man, she could accept it? He couldn't be clearer about the relationship between her and the class monitor, wasn't he? Yin Xiaoyi only felt that she was in an ice house, so cold that it was bone-chilling. It wasn't just the coldness of her body. Chapter 1048. After a long while, Yin Xiaoyi's long eyelashes fluttered. She looked up with a calm gaze and said emotionlessly, "Yes, I'm very disappointed that I didn't see the class monitor." After a pause, her lips curled and a self-mocking sneer flashed across her eyes. "Especially, seeing you here, I'm even more disappointed." That feeling of coldness was accompanied by pain. Bone-chilling cold and bone-chilling pain. Her remaining pride was trampled on by him. Yin Xiaoyi, this mouth of yours really makes people want to ruthlessly seal it. Xiao Jin's eyes darkened, and his dark eyes were filled with anger. His body pressed down, and his long, slender legs forced their way between her legs. His fingers clasped the back of her head, and he fiercely kissed her mouth, which always said things that made him uncontrollably furious. This woman was more adorable when she didn't speak. Yin Xiaoyi moaned softly, and raised her hand to hit his chest, struggling to not let him invade. Perhaps men were naturally talented in this aspect. Xiao Jin, who only had 2 kissing experiences, had already learned the essence. He easily turned Yin Xiaoyi's resistance into nothingness. She couldn't move at all. She forced herself to accept Xiao Jin's domineering kiss. This kiss didn't make Yin Xiaoyi feel the slightest bit of sweetness. Instead, there was intense pain and bitterness. He didn't love her, but he did such things to her several times. He even slandered her relationship with Long Yunjian. Yin Xiaoyi remembered it clearly. The last time when Xiao Jin kissed her forcefully, he clearly didn't have any technique and only knew how to bite her. This time, it was she felt weak all over and couldn't handle it. Although she didn't understand, she understood common sense. This kind of technique wasn't something that could be mastered after just 1 or 2 times. Was it Tao Tao? This name made Yin Xiaoyi feel even more bitter. Women always like to let their imaginations run wild. At this moment, it was inevitable that she would make wild guesses because of Xiao Jin's change. Was it because of the critical moment of the interclass competition, and Xiao Jin couldn't appear to see Tao Tao, so he used her as a substitute? Would he kiss Tao Tao after he got better at it? Her eyes suddenly widened. Unconcealable pain flashed across her eyes. Xiao Jin captured this trace of pain. His kiss paused for a moment. Following that, Xiao Jin's kiss became even more ferocious. Did she hate his kisses that much? Did she really not want him to touch her? He wanted her to remember his kiss and his taste. He wanted her to become just like him, only thinking about him in her head. This thought caused a certain impulse in Xiao Jin's heart to become even more intense. Yin Xiaoyi was kissed until she could only lean on him and barely stand up straight. He wanted to struggle, but it felt like he was scratching an itch. On the contrary, it seemed like he was trying to resist, but he was trying to entice Xiao Jin. She turned her head to avoid his kiss. In the next instant, her body felt light as Xiao Jin carried her by the waist. Ah! She was so frightened that she let out a soft cry. Only the sound of things falling to the ground could be heard. Then her body was placed on the table. Yin Xiaoyi had yet to react, and was about to get up. Xiao Jin's boiling hot body had already pressed down. Xiao Jin. Yin Xiaoyi realized something and her expression changed instantly. What are you doing? Xiao Jin gave a low laugh and kissed her neck. Can't you tell what I want to do? As soon as his kiss touched her skin, she felt a chill run down her spine. Yin Xiaoyi trembled all over. Her eyes were already wet. Those were tears from being angered by Xiao Jin, and tears from being seduced by Xiao Jin. Chapter 1049. Do you know what you're doing? Yin Xiaoyi panted lightly, trying her best to restrain her cloud of emotions. Xiao Jin lifted his head, his elbow propped on the side of her body. I don't know. Yin Xiaoyi was speechless and turned her face away. She really had nothing to say to this man. What did he want to do? Did he feel a sense of achievement by teasing her? This level can make you absent-minded? Xiao Jin's voice suddenly came close to her ear. That voice, with a hint of desire, under deliberate suppression, revealed a husky magnetism. Looks like I have to work harder. As soon as he finished speaking, his warm thin lips sucked on her earlobe. Yin Xiaoyi moaned, her consciousness about to disperse. Xiao Jin's eyes leapt up with a hint of a smile. He liked to see Yin Xiaoyi reveal such an expression because of him. He liked to hear Yin Xiaoyi's coquettish voice. He wanted Yin Xiaoyi's mind to be filled with only him. His actions became more and more fanatical. Her meaning became more and more abstracted. Her entire body had already turned into a puddle of water, bearing all of Xiao Jin's actions. Yin Xiaoyi only came back to her senses when she felt a chill in front of her. Her top had been unbuttoned at some point. Xiao Jin's kiss was about to fall. She raised her hand and slapped Xiao Jin's face. Pa! A deafening sound, extremely loud and clear. It also smashed the ambiguous feelings between the two of them. Xiao Jin's dark jade eyes, filled with desire, gradually focused and fixed on Yin Xiaoyi's face. His pupils contracted, his face somewhat pale. What was he doing? Why did he feel like he couldn't control himself when he saw Yin Xiaoyi? At that time, he saw Yin Xiaoyi walk into the class committee room. He was ecstatic. He saw her turn and leave. He knew that he couldn't let her leave just like that. So he stopped Yin Xiaoyi. He didn't want Yin Xiaoyi to leave. He used such a method to force her to stay. He just to Yin Xiaoyi, so sorry. Xiao Jin turned over and got up from her. His entire body was tense, unable to recover from his loss of control. At this moment, if Xiao Jin still didn't understand his feelings, if so, he would be even more of a pig than a pig. He liked Yin Xiaoyi. He didn't know when it started, but he had fallen in love with this girl. She was always bickering with him, never obeying his orders, and yet he couldn't take his eyes off her. However, he had done such a thing to her. It was the first time they hugged secretly, the second forceful kiss. The third time, he pinned her under his body. She must hate him to the core. No, he could not let her hate him. Xiao Jin clenched his fists and prepared himself mentally. He turned around and lowered his head to apologize to Yin Xiaoyi. Xiaoyi, I'm sorry, you can hit me or scold me, don't hate me. Before he could say the word Pa! Another resounding slap landed on his face. Yin Xiaoyi clutches her clothes tightly and slides down from the table. Xiaoyi. Xiao Jin pursed his lips, not dodging. He could only endure her anger. He lifted his eyes and looked at Yin Xiaoyi. As long as she calmed down, she could hit him however she wanted. However, when he saw Yin Xiaoyi, Xiao Jin's gaze couldn't be shifted away. Yin Xiaoyi was so embarrassed that her face was red to the ears. Her lively, beautiful eyes, under Yin Liqing, added a bit of charm. To him, that was a fatal poison. He opened his mouth, wanting to express his feelings. Chapter 1050. Xiao Jin was slightly taken aback as he saw Yin Xiaoyi gathering her clothes and getting up to escape. In his panic, he immediately grabbed her arm. Xiaoyi, listen to me. His voice suddenly paused, because he saw Yin Xiaoyi's reddened eyes. She stared at him with her beautiful, watery eyes that were tinged with redness. That delicate little face was expressionless. Xiao Jin's heart felt as if it was being pierced by needles, a tearing pain. Yin Xiaoyi, such a strong-willed woman. Such a strong woman. Even in the Yin family, Yin Zhenfei deliberately ostracized and framed him. She was a truly talented young lady of the Yin family, but she had been reduced to a useless servant girl who was despised by the entire Yin family. She was able to grit her teeth and endure it. With her own ability, she had secretly made plans for her future. After entering the devil class, her innate talent caught the eye of Long Yunjian. After formal training, she successfully joined the class committee. No matter how hard it was or how tired she was, she never complained about it. She was so strong that she didn't seem like a woman. But now she cried. Because of him, such a strong woman had cried. Looking at her reddened eyes, the words that Xiao Jin was about to say got stuck in his throat, and he couldn't spit them out. His heart was filled with grief. His heart ached to the extreme. His grip on Yin Xiaoyi's hand gradually loosened. Yin Xiaoyi retracted her gaze, not wanting to look at him again. His eyes were filled with so much pain and so much passion. She almost had the illusion that he cared about her and valued her. He couldn't look anymore. If she fell into Xiao Jin's heart again, sooner or later, she would not be herself. When the large palm on her wrist loosened, Yin Xiaoyi tightened her clothes and fled the class committee room. He did not give Xiao Jin the slightest chance to make him stay. The interclass competition was about to begin in half a month. Yiqing Luo kept all her thoughts and concentrated on giving these mercenaries the fastest and shortest explosive training. The training methods that the bunch of old fogies in the Hidden World Yi family trained her. Trained the Death Warriors. were all used on the students of the devil class. Each method was crueler than the previous. With Demo Xian's help, the effect was extremely obvious. The students also knew the importance of this competition, and all of them trained very hard. Their fighting spirit was high, and no one complained of tiredness. There were only 7 days left before the competition. Yiqing Luo gathered all the students and divided them into groups for confrontation. Last night, she told Demo Xian and another god thief, as they snuck into the Shangguan family's residence, opened their little treasury, and directly stole 10 pieces of essence and above weapons. Among them were 2 supreme being grade weapons. Although it was a pure grade weapon, it was not the best. But to be used as weapons for the students of devil class, it was more than enough. Yiqing Luo was planning to wait till she met suitable ones in the future to forge a supreme grade weapon for each of them. When the 10 weapons were placed on a makeshift platform in the training ground, more than 60 students stared at them with their eyes wide open. Next, I will divide you into 10 teams. You can choose members from other teams and compete against each other. Who will emerge victorious? The eyes of over 60 students lit up. It was obvious that they were extremely interested in these weapons. Originally, he thought that Yiqing Luo would say, whoever obtained victory would be able to obtain these weapons. Chapter 1051. The second round of competition. Yiqing Luo naturally let the 10 of them challenge Long Yunzhan, Yan Xiaoyi, Xiao Jin and Mo Yuing. As for Baiming Lu, Yiqing Luo gave her several prescriptions, asking her to make the best use of her time to refine pills. As for the main output, these students were more than enough. With the main output, they still needed support and treatment. Baiming Lu just happened to provide these 2 points. Moreover, as compared to training and fighting, Baiming Lu apparently liked to refine pills more. After challenging the 4 members of the class committee, it was time to challenge Demo Xian. As long as they were able to last more than 10 rounds in Demo Xian's hands, they would obtain the rights to choose their weapons. When these students heard that, although they felt that this kind of round after round of competition was indeed too much for them, but they had to admit, it had aroused their fighting spirit. Even if there was no weapon as a reward, they also wanted to try their best to challenge the class committee, to challenge Supreme Mo. Looking at the students' fighting spirit, Yiqing Luo gave a satisfied smile. This battle is our battle to turn the tables. Let the other classes, and even the other academies, see clearly that we devil class are not a waste class. Your current hard work will make your future filled with surprises. If you want to wash away the shame of being waste, then use your sweat to wipe away this shame. Remember this battle is not for me, not for devil class, but for yourselves, for your own dignity, for your own future. I hope, in future no matter where you go, there will be people using an envious and worshipping tone to say to you, wow, you are devil class's students. Devil class will become the synonym of your glory. Yiqing Luo's sonorous voice paused, as her gaze swept past them. Do you have confidence? Yes. After 5 days of sleepless resistance, finally, there were 2 students who fought their way out of the tight encirclement, obtaining 2 weapons. One was Beiming Liancheng, the other was Tong Ziqing. Long Yunzhan and the others were all exhausted. Yan Xiaoyi and Mo Yuing were all covered with big and small injuries. Xiao Jin also couldn't avoid some external injuries. But the 4 of them had a relaxed and satisfied smile on their faces. Even Long Yunzhan, when he saw the students' huge improvement, his brows revealed a smile. However, what puzzled everyone was, Yan Xiaoyi and Xiao Jin did not speak during these few days of training. They didn't say a word to each other. After accepting the challenge, he led his team to fight against Xiao Jin's team. Yan Xiaoyi did not hold back at all. On the contrary, it was Xiao Jin. When facing Mo Yaing and Long Yunzhan's team, his attacks were ruthless and every move was fatal. But when it came to Yan Xiaoyi, He was so terrified that he retreated step by step. Other than passively receiving Yin Xiaoyi's attacks, he had no intention of retaliating. After a few times, Yin Xiaoyi directly refused to compete with Qiao Jin. Yiqing Luo crossed her arms in front of her chest as she squinted her eyes and stared at the strange atmosphere between the both of them. She nudged Dmo Xian. What conflict are the both of them having this time? Dmo Xian's shimmering peach blossom eyes glanced over as he shook his head. Apart from her, no one else mattered. Naturally, he would not bother to pay attention to it. On the other hand, Tong Ziqing, who was resting on the ground, put down the pure grade whip in her hand and mumbled, "Maybe I helped the wrong person." Yiqing Luo raised her brows and squatted down to gossip. "Tell me about it." Chapter 1052. She scratched her head, and a trace of awkwardness appeared on her cold and elegant face. "I think they like each other. Watching them torment each other for a few days and hiding from each other isn't a good idea, so I decided to give them a push." Who would have thought that with this push, the two of them would no longer hide from each other? But it was obvious that Yin Xiaoyi had treated Qiao Jin as a stranger. Tong Ziqing's eyes dimmed as she subconsciously glanced at Long Yunjian, who was as elegant as a bamboo. If once the relationship between the brothers was exposed, it would be very painful. "We can't even be friends anymore?" Then would it be the same for her and Long Yunjian? "I don't even have the right to accompany Long Yunjian?" After coming out from the illusion, Tong Ziqing had thought about confessing her feelings to Long Yunjian. But seeing Yin Xiaoyi and Qiao Jin like this, the courage that he had summoned with great difficulty was now gone. Yiqing Luo saw Tong Ziqing's inexplicable depressed expression. Following her gaze, he saw Long Yunjian. He immediately understood. It was never a secret that Tong Ziqing liked Long Yunjian. However, the target was Long Yunjian. Yiqing Luo didn't know whether to persuade her to give up or to persist. He could only remain silent and not disturb Tong Ziqing's thoughts. Perhaps sensing Yiqing Luo's gaze, Long Yunjian glanced sideways at her. His azure blue eyes became gentle. Yiqing Luo was just about to reply with a smile when her slender waist was suddenly pulled by someone. She fell right into Dmo Xian's arms. She instinctively wrapped her arms around Dmo Xian's neck and glared at him in annoyance. "Our classmates are all here." Dmo Xian's deep eyes sunk. "So what if she's here? You are Supreme Mo now." Yiqing Luo's slender fingers poked Dmo Xian's handsome face. "Don't divert the attention of the students." Dmo Xian chuckled. "Who in the class doesn't know that this master has an affair with you? Except for a few members of the class committee. The other students had never thought that the person who had been guiding them was the overlord. Every time they saw Supreme Mo interacting intimately with their boss, they would feel extremely conflicted. Dizun is very good. Supreme Mo was also very good. Moreover, both of them were extremely good-looking men. Moreover, both of them doted on their boss to the heavens. Who should they help? Could he let boss Qing Luo take both of them in? The Heavenly Academy's interclass competition had officially started. Under the instruction of the dean, the students of the Heavenly Academy left the academy a day earlier and headed to the West Square for the competition. The interclass competition was the highlight of every academy. It was equivalent to the midterm and final exams for students in the 21st century. For an academy, it was equivalent to a graduation exam. Naturally, he had to accept the observation and evaluation of the other academies, as well as the headquarters. The West Billow Plaza was about 200 to 300 li away from Three Springs City. The procession was majestic, parading the streets and promoting their presence. When he arrived at the West Wave Plaza, it was already close to noon. West Lawn Plaza was a special place that was often used for large-scale competitions. Because of this, two large residences similar to the academy's dormitories were built far away from the Western continent. A man's mansion, a woman's mansion. It was specially provided for the participating academies to live in. Moreover, because there would often be academies coming here to set up competitions, a small town gradually formed in the vicinity of the Western continent. The entire West Wave Plaza was bustling with noise and excitement. On the first day, the director got the various classes' masters to invite the students to stay in the mansion. Chapter 1053. Devil Class Students. Yiqing Luo didn't want the students who had seen the World Mercenary Group to recognize their identities. He specially asked DMO Xian to give each of them a simple disguise. The men and women lived in separate residences, and they were each assigned to the most remote courtyard. Yiqing Luo and the rest didn't mind. It didn't matter where he stayed. He would only be staying for 4 or 5 days anyway. Yiqing Luo didn't give them a chance to rest. After lunch, he called for a group of students to go to the back mountain of Shilon Square for pre-match warm-up training. Recently, the students had been training non-stop, training day and night. Compared to the students of the other classes, they looked dispirited and dispirited. The students of Devil class were obviously much more spirited. After lunch, the other students were preparing for tomorrow's competition. As for the students of the Devil class, they headed towards other places in a mighty formation. The headmasters and elders, as well as the onlookers, turned to look at them. He seemed to be guessing which class the student belonged to. He actually had to go out and exhaust his strength during the most important rest period. A useless class is indeed a useless class. Other than eating, drinking, and having fun, you guys can't do anything. A sharp voice came from not far away. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she looked over. He saw Shangguan Liuli and 7 to 8 students from Intermediate Profound Class 2 coming back with bags of all sizes. Clearly, he had just returned from the market and was preparing to rest. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but scoffed. He did not know how Shangguan Liuli, this white-eyed woman, could be so thick-skinned to say such words. Seeing Yiqing Luo's sneer, Shangguan Liuli's expression changed immediately. "What are you laughing at? Am I wrong? The competition will begin tomorrow, yet you still have the leisure to go out now. You're simply too foolish." The onlookers were enlightened. So these students are from the Devil class, which is known as the Waste class in the Heavenly Academy. Only the students from the useless classes would go out in groups during the most important break time. I don't know what's wrong with the Devil class this year to actually want to participate in the interclass competition. Several spectators from other forces began to discuss in low voices. In this era, only the strong were respected. Even though they knew that Shangguan Liuli and the others were there, they still formed a small team and went to the market to have fun. However, when they saw the class that was called trash, they went to the market to play in groups. Everyone naturally leaned toward Shangguan Liuli. But very quickly, a representative from another party whispered, "You guys don't know I heard." During this year's Heavenly Academy enrollment, there was an extremely talented student who could be called as the second overlord, who entered the Devil class. The second venerable sovereign? Are you kidding me? Someone with such great talent would still be assigned to the Devil class? The Heavenly Academy has been holding the title of the best academy for 5 consecutive years. Surely they wouldn't make such a low-level mistake, right? Someone immediately shook his head in doubt. These were indeed unbelievable words. He could be called the second Dizun. How powerful would that person be? How could such a powerful person be assigned to a trash class? Was the Heavenly Academy going to ascend to the heavens? It's absolutely true. This student has a great background. You must have heard of her name before, the representative said mysteriously. Chapter 1054. What? The 7th young lady of the Yi clan? You mean that useless 7th miss whose fiancé was stolen by her own elder sister? I've heard of her. Someone screamed. I didn't expect her to be the 7th young lady of the Yi family. As one of the 4 great sects, Yiqing Luo was one of the future patriarchs. Once her name was announced, all the forces of the Western continent would know of it. Even the people from other continents had heard of Yiqing Luo's notorious name. Naturally, there were also people who knew Yiqing Luo's current reputation. She's the first one to break the Heavenly Academy's admission records. In just an hour, he had passed the entrance examination. And he has a close relationship with His Majesty. Yes. Do you still remember the earth-shattering battle in the tomb of King Ling last month? He mentioned what happened in the Ling King's tomb. There was no one who didn't know. That day, the divine artifact descended into the world. Countless forces went to the tomb of the Ling King, just to snatch the divine artifact. Unexpectedly, they were attacked by the dark forces and suffered heavy casualties. This matter caused an uproar in the entire Western continent. Naturally, there was no one who did not know about it. That day, the person who obtained the divine weapon and summoned the divine dragon and the white tiger was the seventh young mistress of the Yi clan. When she said that, everyone's gaze towards Yi Qing Luo was instantly filled with reverence and respect. The crowd looked at Yi Qing Luo with sparkling eyes. He had a close relationship with Di Zun. He could summon the supreme divine dragon. He could subdue the holy beast white tiger. His talent must be extremely strong, heaven-defying, to the extent that no one could reach. The last battle in King Ling's tomb. It was Yi Qing Luo who took action and subdued the dark forces people. With such a powerful person around, it was no wonder that the trash class dared to participate in the interclass competition. Wait. Since the seventh young mistress of the Yi family is so powerful, why was she assigned to the devil class? Don't tell me that the Heavenly Academy's dean doesn't know how to look at a student's talent? The onlookers started to raise their doubts. Logically speaking, to be able to pass the Academy's admission assessment within half an hour and break the Heavenly Academy's record over the years. No matter what, he wouldn't be assigned to the devil class, right? Everyone started to speculate about the principal's intentions. Shangguan Liuli's face turned pale. She originally wanted to ridicule Yi Qing Luo for humiliating her. She had not expected that she actually pushed Yi Qing Luo, making her the object of worship for the surrounding crowd. How could he feel at ease? Immediately, Shangguan Liuli said sourly, "The interclass competition is a team competition. So what if student Yi is the only one who is strong? As for the other students, they are still trash." These words were indeed reasonable, even if Yi Qing Luo was so strong that no one could match her. However, the competition between classes was a competition between classes. It was not an individual competition. "Student Yi, don't forget the blood oath between us." Shangguan Liuli's arrogant face was filled with a ruthless sneer. "With this bunch of trash, let's see how you're going to win." Yi Qing Luo sneered. His eyes were cold. "It's our class. How we get first place is our business. Our class going out to play is also our business." She curled her lips and her eyes were filled with ambiguity. Student Shangguan is so concerned about the devil class. Could it be? Student Shangguan to me. She paused and didn't continue. But the onlookers all understood what she meant. Their gazes towards Shangguan Liuli were filled with disdain and ridicule. Chapter 1055. Shangguan Liuli was so embarrassed that her face flushed red. She was embarrassed and angry at the same time. She stared at Yi Qing Luo resentfully as she tore her throat and sharply berated. "Who has any strange feelings towards you? How can you be so shameless?" Saying that, Shangguan Liuli rushed towards the direction of the mansion. She couldn't stay here any longer. She was afraid that she couldn't control herself and would make a move on Yi Qing Luo. Not only was she unable to defeat Yi Qing Luo, she was also humiliated by her. Because of this, she would be reprimanded by the academy, and in more serious cases, she would be disqualified from the competition. But Shangguan Liuli's furious back view as she left. In everyone's eyes, it was because her thoughts were exposed, and she fled in embarrassment. Enai Ruopan stood beside Yi Qing Luo and laughed. "You're indeed Madame Qing Luo. Just a few words and you made Shangguan Liuli speechless." Yi Qing Luo glanced at her. "The interclass competition is around the corner. We can't casually fight with other students and cause unnecessary trouble." Of course, the most important thing was, she didn't intend to waste her energy because of Shangguan Liuli. "Let's go," Yi Qing Luo said calmly, as she took the lead to pass the crowd and walked towards the rear mountain. The crowd gave way to her, as they were filled with admiration and envy towards this young lady, who had such ability at such a young age. After leaving the crowd, she walked for about 10 meters. Yiqing Luo's footsteps suddenly halted. Turning back, her gaze was fixed on a certain spot. But she saw that there were only a few ordinary crowd who were pointing at her with eyes filled with respect. Yiqing Luo frowned as she retracted her gaze. Could it be an illusion? Why did she feel as though someone was watching her? In the dark corner, a man dressed in a blood-red robe with a jade belt was staring fixedly at the young lady's back view as she retracted her gaze. His icy cold eyes were filled with a chilly demonic coldness. That extraordinary handsome face was emotionless, dressed in a flirtatious red. But his imposing manner was as cold as ice. But this combination, it didn't seem out of place. On the contrary, he felt that this man was born to wear a red robe. Until Yiqing Luo's back view completely disappeared before his eyes. The man then lowered his gaze and lowered his long eyelashes. A waist for 15 years. Suddenly there was a change, and she became so powerful? What kind of secret was hidden within? He would definitely find out the reason for Yiqing Luo's change. On the mountain behind Westlawn Square. This back mountain could also be considered as a training ground for the profound practitioners and students who had come to participate in the tournament, such as the Magical Beast Forest or the Heavenly Training Forest. There were quite a few profound practitioners at the periphery. Some were sightseeing, some were conversing, and some were taking a stroll. Seeing more than 60 young students dressed in the uniform of the Heavenly Academy, coming in majestically, those cultivators stopped in their tracks and looked over, sending Yiqing Luo and the rest into the deep end of the rear mountain. These students are really hardworking. Tomorrow is the competition, and today they still have to participate in the training. The Heavenly Academy is indeed the best academy. The perseverance of these students is admirable. These profound practitioners were speaking. Then he saw a group of students walking over. Their leader was a spoiled and willful young lady. She pulled one of them aside and asked, "Where did that bunch of trash go?" The profound practitioner, who was being dragged, furrowed his brows in displeasure, just as he was about to break free from the female student's restraints. But he saw a student walking up from behind the female student. He raised his hand, and a dagger was placed on his neck. The profound practitioner's eyes widened in shock as his trembling hand pointed towards the direction where Yiqing Luo and the rest had left. What kind of student was this? Chapter 1056. By right, this afternoon was the last resting period before tomorrow's competition. She should let the students have a good rest. But Yiqing Luo wasn't worried about this. Previously she asked Bei Ming Lulu to refine these pills, which were all from the 100 pills refinement, to strengthen the body and replenish energy. Of course, this was purely to replenish energy and strength. This was also the pill which many of the students who were taking part in the competition often took. It wasn't considered as the competition's banned drug. Devil classes students didn't need to worry about being exhausted due to excessive training. As for the reason why Yiqing Luo chose the rear mountain for the last training, it was because the last training was to train the class's students' teamwork. Although they had been working together for such a long period of time, they had also established a mercenary group to do missions together. The rapport between them, as compared to other groups, was indeed outstanding. But to Yiqing Luo, these were far from enough. What she wanted was for these students to remember each and every companion's action and gaze. Of course, this was easier said than done. In her past life, Yiqing Luo had always been a lone ranger and had never nurtured any so-called partners. Towards teamwork, she had heard those old fogies talk about it before. The method which Yiqing Luo used was a method which those old fogies had once mentioned. The most cliché but the most effective. He tied a red ribbon around the legs of more than 60 students, trapping the 60 over students tightly together. On the ribbon, there was a bell hanging from every student. After the students were tied up, they moved their legs, and that bell jingle jingle was extremely crisp and clear. Now run one round around the 100-mile radius of the middle periphery. Yiqing Luo said calmly from behind. Run. The students' faces were filled with puzzlement. So simple? Following that, they saw a black-furred leopard beast appearing behind them. The students instantly wailed. I knew it. Wouldn't be so simple. Shiju, spare us. Shiju raised its head and gave a long howl. That huge leopard body slowly arched up, and with a leap, it chased after them. What the? Shiju, you're so cute, can't you go easy on us? Chasing after us just because of a disagreement. Little cutie Shiju as a magical beast, you can't be so rough, the students screamed and screamed. But they still ran forward quickly. This kind of training where he was chased by Shiju and had to run upside down all over the field. This was their daily homework. But this time, one of their legs was tied with a red ribbon. More than 60 people were tied together. When he lifted his leg, there was not the slightest bit of tacit understanding. One after another, they staggered and fell to the ground with a crackling sound. Shiju pounced forward and pressed heavily on them. Although he had retracted his claws, he still had sharp teeth. However, this weight was enough to make the students cough uncontrollably. Yiqing Luo called Shiju back as she crossed her arms and looked at the students. Now do you understand the reason why I asked you to run one round? Understood. The students rubbed their sore spots and quickly adjusted their state of mind. They began to discuss how to run together. In less than an hour, these students were already able to walk and run together. And their speed was not slow either. Their gazes were all focused on the companions beside them. Then he quickly adjusted his rhythm. Chapter 1057. After another 4 hours, the students' speed became faster and faster. Just like the usual training, when they were chased by Shiju. Just like one person running, 60 over students ran in unison. Their actions were the same, and their speed was the same. There was no flaw at all. After going one round around the entire middle circle, the students stood in front of Yiqing Luo delightfully. On their faces, not only were they complacent, their faces were filled with smiles. As though they were waiting for Yiqing Luo's compliments. Uffed. Uffed. Standing beside Yiqing Luo, looking at these students' colorful expressions, Xiao Jing couldn't help but laughed out. Accompanying the laughter was Yan Xiaoyi. The two of them spoke in unison and laughed out at the same time. This tacit understanding made the two of them stop laughing. Their 4 eyes subconsciously intersected. Just their gazes met for a moment, and the two of them shifted away at the same time. The atmosphere suddenly turned awkward. Those students who had smiles on their faces, waiting for compliments, also sensed the strange atmosphere. All of them kept the smiles in their eyes as they obediently stood upright. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly as she glanced sideways at the two people beside her, frowning slightly. The two of them. If this carried on, it would definitely affect the students' emotions. After all, the two of them were the main force of the students, and the role models in the students' hearts. Looked like she had to have a good talk with them tonight. Yiqing Luo took a step forward. All the students' gazes were concentrated on her. Yiqing Luo coughed lightly, as a way to ease the atmosphere and divert the students' emotions as she said softly. Very good, next your challenge is to level up. She paused slightly. Her eyes congealed towards the students as she smiled sweetly. From now on, continue to run one round around the middle circle. The prerequisite is that the bells on your feet are not allowed to make any sound. The students were dumbstruck. After several breaths of silence, the students started to wail as they fell onto the ground. Boss Qing Luo, isn't your request a little too harsh? How can it not make any sound? So many bells. And the surroundings are filled with leaves and bushes. Even if we control the bells to not make any sound, the sound will be swept away by these external objects. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as a sliver of ridicule flashed past her eyes, as she lightly swept past those students who were acting shamelessly on the ground. Feel that I'm forcing you? The students didn't answer, which could be considered as an admission. Yiqing Luo looked at a direction not too far away, and saw that Mo Yuing and Shi Ju had yet to return. He then said to Long Yunjian, "Class monitor, let's try." Long Yunjian understood, and walked directly in front of Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo took out a red ribbon with 2 bells on it, and tied her and Long Yunjian's legs together. Then, with a burst of xianqi, he sent out a palm wind that landed not far away. A thick and sturdy tree fell to the ground with a bang. Yiqing Luo pointed to the place where the tree had fallen and said calmly, "Class monitor, and I will go there and come back. Open your ears and listen carefully." After saying that, she glanced at Long Yunjian. Long Yunjian nodded slightly. The two of them looked at the tree at the same time. In an instant, the two of them turned into 2 afterimages and headed straight for the tree. The students only felt a gust of cold wind blow past their cheeks, followed by another gust of cold wind. The two of them had already returned to their original spot, as though they had not moved at all. The speed was so fast that it was merely a blink of an eye. The students' hearts were deeply shaken. "Is there any sound?" Yiqing Luo untied their ribbons as her brows rose as she asked. "You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."